All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees to order. And we're going to begin with our roll call. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. Trustee Feimster. Here. Trustee Frankel.
She's traveling.
Is she traveling, Kim?
Yes, she is.
Trustee Simon Holland.
Here.
I'm here. Trustee Mayer.
Here.
Trustee Raymond.
Here.
And Trustee Taylor.
I am here.
Okay, and we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. For our Pledge of Allegiance today, let's have the only other employee that reports to the board, Ms. Paula Ward, lead us in the pledge today. Thank you for the honey, by the way. Yummy.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. JJ, do we have any public comment to start our meeting today?
We do. John Eppolito.
Mr. Eppolito, welcome, sir. You have 3 minutes. You know the routine.
Thank you. My name is John Eppolito, and I'm the president of Protect Nevada Children, and I have 3 kids in the schools, Washoe County schools. I wanted to point out this article in Education Week from the other day. It was written by Chester Finn. Chester Finn was the president of the Fordham Institute, and they were strong supporters of the Common Core. Chester Finn is not a big supporter of the social and emotional learning. So Chester and I may not agree on Common Core, but we do agree on social and emotional. In his article, he writes this, quote, dig into social emotional, the title of the article, Why Are Schools Still Peddling the Self-Esteem Hoax? Social and Emotional Learning is Rooted in Faux Psychology. And in the article, Chester writes, dig into social and emotional learning's 5 components as laid out by Castle. And you'll spot among 25 skills students are supposed to learn, just one feeble mention of ethics and none whatsoever of morality. You won't even find such old-fashioned virtues as integrity, courage, or honesty, and certainly nothing as edgy as patriotism. Though its partisans will contest the point, social and emotional learning does not seem intent to build character in any traditional sense, nor is it aimed at citizenship. It's awash in the self, steeped in the ability to understand one's own emotions, thoughts, values, strengths, and limitations. I provided a copy of everybody for that to the article. He doesn't even address the social and emotional assessment, probably because he doesn't know much about it. And he certainly doesn't address the type of psychological assessment that Washoe County School District is doing with their children. In regards to the psychological assessments, the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment and the SEL Web that's being used in Washoe County School District, for several months we've been asking the district these questions, but for some reason we can't get an answer. Per FOIA, please answer at least the first 4 of our questions. Will these psychological assessments be given to all school students in grades K-8? Will parents be notified prior to the assessment being given to their child? Can parents opt out of these psychological assessments? Who will have access to these psychological profiles? How will these profiles affect the future of our students? That's the one that I know you can't answer. So I've printed these up, and then the third handout I have, some of you already received, but some of you haven't. Time magazine from about 8 months ago. Screens in school are a $60 billion hoax. So there's 3 handouts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eppolito.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment to start?
That's all I have.
Okay. Okay, moving on then to agenda item 1.05. This is the action to adopt the agenda. Please note that, that agenda item 6.01 and 6.02, which are both related to the Share Advisory Committee, will be heard after the consent agenda. We know we have committee members that are here, so we'll move that right up. Then otherwise, I will entertain any desire from any of my colleagues to move anything from the agenda or to adopt the agenda as presented. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the trustee mayor.
Move for approval of the agenda as outlined with the exception of those two items.
Thank you, trustee mayor.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show that it is unanimous. I want to make sure we don't have Trustee Franco on the phone, right? We're unable. Okay, just wanted to make sure we weren't leaving her out if she was able to call in. Okay, moving on to board reports. Agenda item number 2, board reports. And just as a reminder for our colleagues, we'll have no discussion at this time, but we can report on whatever activities we've had going on over the past couple of weeks. And we'll start, we're going to start with Dr. Feemster on today, if you have anything to report. A lot of graduations and those types of things I know going on. Dr. Feemster?
Yes, thank you, President Taylor. I would just like to comment on the graduations. That's the highlight of the year. I was so impressed with the work of all the schools, the students, the parents, but more specifically, what your team did, our team did right here with Vanjie. I mean, just, you could not, even though her name was being called about 100 times a minute, where's Vanjie, where's Vanjie? She never wavered. She was just calm, collected. She is at the top of her game, and I just think that is so important for us to acknowledge all the work that she did and just the coordination with all the schools. And we're just, is Vanjie here by any chance? She's here? Well,
Vanjie, why don't you raise a hand or something we can give you some appreciation for all the work that you've done?
And I just, truly, Vanjie, your work is just, it's just at the top of your game. I mean, you're just awesome, and every school recognized that. So thank you so much for the time that you put into it, and don't leave us anytime soon. That's all I can say. If not, leave copious notes for us. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and I know from the parents and the team. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee Feemster. Trustee Mayor? We're going counterclockwise, it looks like. Okay.
All right. Graduation, I love graduation. But the thing that I like is that there was no beach ball throwing, there was no rowdiness, and more important, there was no deaths from partying after graduation and traffic accidents or anything like that as there have been in the past. This was a real mature group of students, and we're going to hear a lot from them in the future. And some of the speeches, if we recorded them and put them on an album, it'd be on the bestsellers list, because those kids talked from the heart, and they were so inspirational. And I just felt that if anybody doubts that the country's in bad hands, the future looks bright with these young people that graduated this round, and I'm so proud of each and every one of them.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. Trustee Raymond?
Well, I don't need to add a whole lot. Thank you to the staff again for helping keep us organized during the graduations. And as a new trustee, I think one highlight for me was just seeing how different each school climate was and getting a feel for, the difference between, a smaller school and a larger school, but just even class to class, the difference in the students they were all wonderful, and it was exhausting, but a lot of fun and really interesting. So,
thank you, Trustee Raymond. Clerk Kelly?
Yeah, this was my fifth graduation cycle that I've been privileged to be part of, and I just thought that they were great. The students, for me, the highlight is usually hearing the student speeches. And the speeches are great because they really blend. They're funny, they're serious, they're poignant, and then they're very unique to that time. The students will reference things that meant a lot to them, and they always give shouts out to their parents and to the staff. And I agree with John. I mean, it would be great to somehow collect all these speeches and put them into a book someday, because I think it'd be fun to read. But I had a great time. I think that giving diplomas, awarding diplomas, is definitely one of the highlights of being a trustee, and I look forward to doing it again next year.
Thank you, Trustee Kelly. Last and certainly not least, going around the table anyway, Vice President Holland, Simon Holland.
Thank you, Madam President. I also echo the great job that was done on behalf of all the folks who are graduating. And I also want to thank the faculty and the principals and the administrators at the schools. Year after year, they bring these kids to the finish line. And as we know, fingers crossed, we have more kids than ever this year graduating. So big shout out to all of the teachers that give their hearts and souls to these kids year after year. We had lots of principals that came from elementary schools to their feeder high schools to see some of those kids that they had known as first graders graduating. So it's a great reminder. Graduation is a great reminder. It takes a whole community to get those kids across the finish line, and my hat's really off to the teachers and the parents who get those kids all the way through. So thank you.
Thank you. Certainly, graduation was the highlight for all of us. I wasn't able to attend as many. I usually try to catch every graduation, getting to the 16, 17, 18. This year, I was only able to attend 4, but I really did enjoy those 4 and make it my business to try to tweet out a picture and all of that to let the world know that these kids are walking across the stage. And I got better at it as it went along. But really just so proud, and really just want the community to know that we have a lot of kids working really, really hard to walk across the stage, and we couldn't be more proud of them. The other thing, and you forgot this part, we went to Honda. Yes, we did. Vice President Holland and myself, along with our Deputy Superintendent, were at is it Courtesy Honda? Bill Pierce, Courtesy Honda, with Sandy Raffelli and her team there. And they, for those of you who don't know, they award a Honda Fit, brand new 2017 Honda Fit, to a senior who has had perfect attendance for the year. And there were 170 across the community that were eligible for the raffle. They came out, and there were many partners. They gave out ice cream. There was a live radio broadcast. I mean, it was just a lot of fun, and it was great to see a kid from DeMonte, from DeMonte Ranch High School win. And they had all kinds of car problems, and he was going to going to UNLV and wondering how he was going to get home and all of that. So Mark Burks was the winner, and it was just fantastic just to see him win. It was a fantastic car too. Cute little car. So it's really thank you to Sandy and her team. That was their 9th year, and they've already committed they're going to do it again for their 10th year. And so we really want to, and for those of you that know seniors and those who may have them in your families, you want to get them that car. Tell them don't miss a day of school, not even senior cut day. Not even senior cut day, but it was certainly well worth it for them. And then again, just kudos to for all the work for the staff and the team and those kids that walked across that stage. There are more kids that are going to cross the stage this summer, and so we're looking forward to our August graduation. We don't want to leave them behind. We want to be just as excited about them and them getting to the finish line as well. So that's it for me, Superintendent Davis.
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo the words and thank a few other people. Of course, Vanjie, Julie from School Police was everywhere, and it's such a smooth graduation. And we know how sometimes those graduations can be unruly, but such a smooth process, and you guys were everywhere. Food service, Michael and his people who were there all the time, making sure that we were taken care of since we were there for long, 12, 13 hours. And principals, teachers, just the 8,000 employees. I think that when we think about what it takes to get a kid to the finish line, it's everybody in the organization, and we are so proud of all our students. And not just because they graduated, it's because their stories. We were able to hear some amazing stories of triumph and resiliency and grit of our kids right down to the last minute, which speaks mounds to the dedication of not only their teachers, but the dedications they have to themselves. So we're truly excited, and I'm sure everybody really want to know, like, what does that mean? I'm sure we will do better than we did last year, soon to come. A big shout out, we
we have two new area superintendents. Lauren Ford and Joe Ernst was named as area superintendents. We are so happy to have them. And as you know, we hired Deborah Biersdorf as our chief academic officer, and they are off and running. So as we close a year, we actually start a year too. Like, there is no transition between graduation and getting the work done, because as you know, the work starts. We are already in intercession for kids at various schools, getting work done. So we're super excited about where we're going. And when we say every child by name and face to graduation, we are truly talking about every child by name and face to graduation. And a big thanks to our community. A lot of our community leaders, Redfield, Children's Cabinet, just stepping in and filling that need where we can't always fill that need. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. Great work. Great work, great work. Now we're into the summertime when more work continues to happen. We're going to go on now to agenda item 3.0. 3.01, this is approval of the consent agenda, quite a lengthy consent agenda. These are agenda items 3.02 through 3.33. And we do have a couple of committees, people that will be appointed to committees, and we certainly want to acknowledge them as appropriate. So I'll pull those out, just so we can acknowledge those committee members. I love that. Thank you, Trustee Holland, for bringing that in, because I think that's absolutely appropriate for that. But I will ask, before we do that, if there are any members of the board that would like to pull something from the consent agenda for further consideration. Yes, Vice President Holland?
Thank you, President Taylor. I didn't need to pull anything, but I wanted to point out on items 3.02, 3.03, and 3.04, I, as well as other members of the board who were newly elected, were not present at those meetings. So my vote to approve those is a ministerial action and does not reflect either agreement or disagreement that the minutes are an accurate representation of the meeting.
Those minutes happened before you were on the board, so duly noted. Also, I want to add in, there are several questions that, and you usually ask for this, Trustee Mayor, so I'll go ahead and do that Vice President Holland asked, and just to lend some further clarification, so those responses just to be added to the record. Just additional information, always some good questions, further consideration for those in the public that may want to know more details that we may be privy to make sure they have that same. Any other items that would like to be pulled? What I would like to do just before we approve this is if anyone is here from those committees, the naming committee 3.03. If you're here to be appointed to the naming committee, to the school naming committee, please stand up. We just want to thank you. Naming committee members that are here, we have a couple here. Let's give them a hand. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Do they want to say anything?
If you'd like to share some comments, we'd love to have you. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can. If you like that.
My name is Allison.
Here, come on up, please.
Hello. My name is Allison Castro. I am really excited to be part of this committee. I have 3 children who are part of the district. I'm really involved in higher education. I work with the University of Nevada, Reno. I'm also a full-time student, so this is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm really excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Clene Cook. I'm very excited as well. I think it's an honor to be part of the school district and what we're trying to do for our children. I have 2 children in the school district. I've been with NV Energy for about 30 years, so look forward to it. Worked a lot all across northern Nevada, so thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate those of you on the naming committee, those who are here and those who couldn't be here, because we have schools to name, because we are building schools, so really, really important. So thank you for that work. How about for anyone here from the zoning committee, very important committee as well, 3.31. Zoning committee members are in here, thick as thieves, all right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We certainly would love to give you an opportunity if anyone would like to come forward. A couple of comments. Some of you have been involved. We've seen your faces and names. They're like, no, that's okay. Not one. No. We have a volunteer. All right.
So thank you so much to the board and especially Milena Raymond. My name is Beth Smith and I am a mom to an incoming first grader, and I also have a 1-year-old baby. I am not a native Northern Nevadan, but I have lived here for 15 years. So it's a community that I've adopted in my adult life, and I am so excited to contribute to the district and the community on this board. So thank you.
Thank you. again, the zoning committee going to be very, very, very important, more important as we build more schools. So thank you for your work. Some were avoided, of each of those committees appointed for 1-year terms or 2-year terms. But we really appreciate your rolling up your sleeves and saying you want to be a part of us as we move forward. And then finally, I know we have one person who's going to be appointed as a new member to the Council on Family. I don't think Assemblywoman Joyner could be here with us on today, but wanted to just acknowledge her willingness to step forward and to work as well. Okay, so all that business being done, I will entertain a motion, if it's the pleasure of the board, to approve the consent agenda. We're looking at agenda items 3.02 through 3.33.
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show that it is unanimous. And again, one more round of applause for those volunteering on our committees. Thank you very much. And I'll go ahead and let you know, if you want to sneak out right now, here's a really good time. Yeah, right? No. Well, you know, if it's their first meeting, they don't know if it's okay to leave. You know, they're like, well, that cleared out the place, didn't it? I tell you what, though, that's great to see that we had so many people that were here and willing to get involved. That's fantastic. That's really great. Important work. Right. Now the staff is like, great, now we can come sit down. Okay, so we're going on to legislative items. Agenda item 4.01. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Sure, we're gonna move one up for you. Let me move over to that. That's right, we did. We get all the committee work done together. Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Simon Holland. We're going to go on. We're just going to skip down so we can get all the committee work done at the same time. Thank you for that reminder. Agenda item 6.01. This is a presentation and discussion. We have two pertaining to SHARE, to the SHARE Committee, Sexuality, Health, and Responsibility Education curriculum, and the status of that advisory committee and meetings. So we're going to first have a presentation. This is just for discussion on this, an update, status report, and then we'll go into those committee members that will be appointed to fill in and make up the composition of that SHARE committee. So before us, we have Kendra Fox and our new Chief Academic Officer. Before us, incoming, Deborah Deardorff. Thank you, ladies, for being here. The floor is yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and members of the board. So technically, incoming Chief Academic Officer. I'm doing two jobs right now, but I'm learning a lot about my new position and responsibilities. So I'm here to welcome and to introduce Kendra Fox, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. She's going to talk us through updates regarding the SHARE curriculum and then also the process that we recently undertook to find some amazing folks to join our SHARE committee. So thank you very much.
Thank you. President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board, I wanted to give you an update on the coordinator, the curriculum, and then moving on to the committee selection. So as you may know, Mr. Russell Hunter resigned from the school district in June and moved to Texas for a new exciting career. And so the new SHARE coordinator is Rochelle Proctor, and she comes to curriculum instruction from the Title I office, and she has a lot of experience in teaching and coordinating. So I'm excited to welcome her to the curriculum instruction department, and I know she will. Once she gets her feet wet and running, she will take over and do a great job. So I think she was supposed, She was supposed to be here, but I didn't know you were going to move it up, so I told her,
Oh.
3.
Okay.
So, sorry about
that's
that.
okay. We just thought since we have people that are here from the community. But I will ask just a little bit, just to fill in for us, how that position was filled quickly, just kind of how that happened, so it's transparent and everyone knows kind of how that
Absolutely.
how that
The
occurred. Thank you,
position
Ms.
was
Fox.
filled during the overage process that the school district has, and so it's a well-defined process, and the position was open during that time, and there was there's a process where it's like a matching process, and she chose that position, and I interviewed her and thought it would be a good fit. So it's just through the overage process.
Well, thank you. I just wanted, because if someone were looking for it to be posted externally, that would not have happened, so.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Right. In terms of the curriculum, the advisory committee last year got through 4th grade. Then we had several openings on the advisory committee, and with Mr. Hunter resigning, I think right now is a good time to reboot, to get the new coordinator up to speed and to get the new committee members up to speed, let them understand the curriculum that's currently in place, and understand what needs to be updated, what's wrong with it, what is right with it, and go forward with a new complete committee. So that is currently what our thinking is around the curriculum. The other thing that was noted during this process was that there weren't standards. And when in all the other subject areas we write curriculum for, we have standards to go back to, define standards at the state or approved by the board. And a lot of times when the committee was struggling with something, there was nothing for them to go back to. And so that might be a place that we recommend that the committee start, is to look at some standards for sex education, and then build either make adjustments to the curriculum or build new curriculum based on the standards. And so I'm hoping that that's the direction that they'll go. That would be my recommendation. Just in my experience in math and all the other subject areas, it's a whole lot easier to build curriculum when you have something to anchor it to. And so that's kind of what our recommendation will be.
Standards, have you found that to be a best practice, like other districts or?
Absolutely. There are national standards that we could adopt with some adjustments. There's also several other counties that we found that have their own standards, either adjusted from the national standards or they've written their own. And so we would take a look at who has standards that are published and kind of start with that and go from there.
Vice President Holland?
Thank you, President Taylor. So just so we're clear for public who may be interested, does that mean we are suspending the work that had been done so far on new curriculum?
Yes, we'll suspend that and go forward. The curriculum that's posted on the Share website right now is the curriculum that's been in place for several years, and it is the curriculum that we will use for the 17-18 school year.
Okay, so we'll spend this year, just clarification, we'll spend this year rebooting, as you use that word, to kind of give the new committee, the new coordinator, new standards, kind of a whole new look at this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
I'm sorry, Trustee Mayor?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, and they had a sex education bill in the legislature, but it didn't pass, so everything's the same, right?
Yes.
There's no new things from the legislature to put into this curriculum at all.
No, not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so in terms of the committee, at the conclusion of last year, we had 4 open seats on the Share Advisory Committee. Current member Claudia Bassett, she requested reappointment, or will request reappointment through tonight, and we hope to move her from the teacher category to the counseling category. Current member Ashley Sonderfand and Victoria Lockey, whose terms expire June 30th of 2018, will move to new categories also. Ms. Sonderfand is a teacher in our district, and Ms. Lockey is a registered nurse. And so she will become the medical nursing representative. Both previously served in the parent category. So with those recommendations, there was 3 parent guardian positions available, and a selection group was created to review the submitted applications. There was approximately 20 applications, and 8 of them were complete applications. We asked all 8 candidates to interview, and the committee that interviewed was consisted of David Lazick, Chief of Staff, Deborah Beiersdorf, incoming Chief Academic Officer, myself, Catherine Loudon, Counseling Director, Claudia Bissett, Vice Chair of the Share Advisory Committee, and Randy Brown, who works in the Human Development Department up at UNR. Oh, I'm sorry, and Misty Allen Vaughn, member of the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. So that was the committee that interviewed. Interviews were conducted on June 13th, 2017, and the selection group recommended Kimberly Jones, who has children at Grace Warner and Clayton Middle School, and I think Kimberly, I saw her here. And Linda DeFlorio, and she has a child at Lenz Elementary, and I saw her. Yes? Oh, will you stand, please? Yeah. It's Linda. I'm sorry, it was Lydia, not Linda. Sorry. And Kimberly. And then Kelly Roper. Kelly, are you here? Kelly Roper. And she has a child at Huffaker Elementary School. And those would be the recommendations for the 3 new members. Upon approval by the board of trustees, they will join existing members Tiffany Hoffman, who has a child at Reno High School, and Daria Scott, who has children at Mendive Middle School and Van Gorder Elementary School, as the parent representatives. Ms. Hoffman and Ms. Scott's terms expire next June. So the religion category was previously filled we were at Jesse Hall. I don't know which month that was. Reverend Neil Anderson, and he will serve a 2-year term. So that's the update on the committee and the process we went through to recommend the 3 new committee members.
Any questions or discussion from the board on the process and where we are with the shared curriculum, where we are with the department, and anything like that before we move on to actually making the appointments for the committee? I see Dr. Feimster and then Trustee Mayor.
Yeah, just if I could get a breakdown of males and females, is that possible?
That applied or
Well,
on the
not applied,
committee?
but that made it on the committees.
I believe there is 1 male on the committee out of 9.
Okay,
Trustee Mayor.
thank you.
Okay, we have public comment. We did as well, and then we have Vice President Holland, and then we have public comment. Yes.
I just wanted to thank everyone who applied. I know this is very difficult work. It's very challenging. It's very time-consuming. I want to thank you all for reaching out to get people to apply, and I just want to extend my appreciation. I know I speak for all of the board members that we appreciate you stepping up and taking this on. So thank you, all of you who are here and all of you who are not.
I want to concur. Thank you for that. Concur because we know that this was got quite a bit of attention in the spring semester, and so being willing to step up, knowing that it's getting so much attention, really speaks very highly to your commitment and wanting to be a part of it. So thank you for making sure we didn't miss that, because it's a lot of work, but it's really important work, important for our kids, for our district, for our community. So we do have public comment on this, JJ.
John Eppolito.
Mr. Eppolito, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Just as I was trying to figure out when I could ask a question or at least make a public comment, Mr. Mayor said something that I think was relevant to what I wanted to ask, and that is the governor vetoed the share curriculum, and I was wondering if that's why we've taken a step back or not. And I don't know if you guys want to answer the question, but I missed what John Mayer said, and so did the school district employee who I was giving my yellow card to.
I think can we have her just address that, if you wouldn't mind, Kendra?
No, actually, that's not why. We have an existing law. Our existing curriculum matches what is in law right now. And we just thought with the change in the committee and the change in the coordinator, that would be a good time to reevaluate what we worked on last year. It didn't have anything to do with the government.
So when you say the existing curriculum, my sixth graders did the existing curriculum last year.
Yes.
And now that when they're going into seventh grade, they're going to do the old curriculum. They're not doing any of this new stuff that I heard the pastors talk about
No.
in this room?
None of the new stuff, no.
Okay, good for one more year. Thanks.
Any other public comment, JJ? Thank you, Mr. Eppolito.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Trustee Mayor, I know you're ready for a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move to appoint the,
Oh, no, we haven't gone on to the next item yet. Right, we're on 6.01. Now we're going on to agenda item 6.02, which is the actual appointment of the committees. No, you're right. No, we're actually
I
now.
thought that was all in 6.2.
No, that 6.01 was just a presentation. Thank you for that. Now 6.02 is actually the recommendation for the committees. I know you began to speak about, and you want to add a little bit more about that, Ms. Fox, and then we can go on and entertain the motion.
Do you want me to just to kind of overview who we selected, or?
Oh, yeah, you've already kind of given us those. So any further questions on the recommendations on the new committee members to fill? We have Trustee Kelly?
I have a question, but I don't know, it's not so much about the committee members. My question is, we, in the spring, you alluded to this, in the spring we had just a tremendous amount of emails about the curriculum. And with what's happening now with the share committee, with this reboot and everything else, is the district going to reach out to all those people via email or something to say, you shared your concerns with us, back in March or April or May, and we wanted to give you an update as to where something's happening now? So I don't know if that's something that you guys had planned to do, or if communications could do it, or what.
We hadn't planned on that, but that is a great idea, and we'll work with communications to make sure that happens.
And I don't know how that, we want to make sure that we get all of those that emailed us that expressed an interest, and maybe perhaps JJ can help with that, just because she sees so many of those emails. I don't know if we can say we can track them. There were a lot of them, as you know, but at least making the best effort that we can.
That's not my committee.
That's not Miss Scurry, I think, was just volunteered for that. But I do think it's an excellent idea, to say that, hey, we heard your concerns. We have these changes that are going on, and this is an opportunity to continue to stay involved, as it's reshaped moving forward. So I do think it's an excellent idea. So thank you for that. Yes, Trustee Raymond.
Maybe I would just tag on to that, which I'm sure that the new coordinator was already going to do, but I think as soon as we can get the calendar out with meeting dates and just, really try to stick with those dates. I know a lot of the moving and canceling of the meetings in the spring had more to do with the committee makeup, but I think moving forward, just to try to keep it consistent and be trying to stick with the meetings that as planned and put them out as far in advance as possible.
Thank you, Trustee Raymond. Other comments? Now I think I'm ready for you, Trustee Mayor.
I move for approval.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we're on agenda item 6.02, appointing the aforementioned committee members to the share committee. Any discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you very much, and thank you for your work in
Before
doing
they
this.
sit
Yes,
down,
Trustee Mayor, yes.
if I may,
Yes, you may.
I want to just say what an outstanding lady Deborah is in the Zoom schools, and she's going to be missed, but congratulations on your appointment up the ladder. But what you've done for those Zoom schools, especially Sparks High School, you got them out of the Zoom category, and through hard work with this school, and I know you were over there tutoring kids and things like that, and I just want to say there's going to be an extra star in your crown for working with those schools and improving them in such a manner that you did.
Thank you so much, ladies. Now we'll go on to agenda item 4. Agenda item 4.01, this is our presentation of our 2017 Legislative Action Plan, which we should each have before us and before us to present it. This presentation and discussion only is Lindsay Anderson. Looking a little fresher.
Oh, thank you. Don't say that. Thank you, Dr. Taylor and Board of Trustees. I'm here just as a quick follow-up from the last meeting. You took action at the last meeting to direct the superintendent to develop an action plan. So what you have in front of you is kind of the latest from today, and I'm not going to go through each of these with you because I think we could be here all day. I would just offer that I've met with about half of the chiefs of the leadership team to develop their action plan for their individual departments about what they need to do on their legislative action plan, and about half are still scheduled as we kind of work through vacation schedules over the summer. But I just wanted to show you that this is kind of what it looks like, and so you have this for at least for about 12 of them, I would call them the high priority, high impact pieces of legislation that have come through. That's about as far as we are on the action plan. And I I tried to make it on legal as so you could read it and big enough, but just for your information, there's also a version that has a lot more columns about the work that needs to be done at the State Board of Education and other entities that will do regulatory work that impacts us. I didn't give you the teeny tiny one just because I'm trying not to torture your eyes, but just as a point of information, there's a lot more to even behind what you have here with you today. And they're grouped by kind of Assembly bill and then Senate bill in order, and there are more than one per bill in some occasions because it's kind of broken down by section. Different sections require different departments to do different things and take different action. But working with Lisa Scurry and both JJ Batchelor that have just been amazing, that we've kind of developed this template that will help us craft what needs to come to your board policy committee, what work can be done at the administrative regulation level, what work needs to be done at the regulatory level at the state level. So unless there's a particular piece of legislation you want to get into in the action plan, I'll just leave it at that. And that this will continue to be, I think, I'm not sure about a standing, but a regular agenda item that will come back probably through the end of this calendar year just to kind of keep you posted on where we are in terms of implementation and what we can expect to see going forward. So I'll leave it at that.
Questions or discussion on specific legislative items from the board? I know I'd like to go through it a little bit and may have some questions for you after. Trustee Mayor?
You know, I just want to thank you for this, and I think we're the leader in the state at doing this, because I noticed several times in some of the legislators' comments down at the Carson City that they don't have a true value number as to who's really put in action what they passed in the legislature. So this is ideal. You can just hand it to our representatives, and I want to thank you. I'm sure you're one of the few in the state that does such a complete plan, and you are to be congratulated for that.
I would just add, Dr. Taylor, that Dottie Merrill and NASB also do a really great job of, I believe Dottie said that in August she'll have a document for all the school board trustees, and hers is particular to changes and policies that the school board has to take action on, so that may be more relevant to you, but it's also very in-depth, and I would say she's kind of the leader in the state in developing action plans for school boards after legislative session. So you've got a lot of good people on your team.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Holland?
Thanks, and I also want to echo the great work you've done, Lindsay, in keeping everybody informed, and texts and emails and letting us know what's going on. I didn't know whether we wanted to say anything at this point about the SB 544 and what the process is for reconciliation about the K-12 education funding, or if that'll come up during our budget discussion. I don't know if there's anything we can tell the public at this point.
I don't think there's any information for us to share at this moment around the activities, but we will, when we talk about the budget, we will talk about how we'll balance the budget, and then we will continually update you on what that looks like.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you for your work. You did a tremendous job.
I'll be back.
Thank you so much. Yes, you will. Speaking of the budget, transitioning right into that item, this is our adoption of our Board Resolution 17-008, a resolution to augment the fiscal year 2016-17 budget of the Washoe County School District, and approval of augmentation and transfers for fiscal year 16-17 budget. This is for $99,185,853. This is for a possible action. And before us are our usual budget suspects. Gentlemen.
President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board. For the record, Tom Szynski, Chief Financial Officer, and with me is our Budget Director, Mike Schroeder. And so Friday is the end of the fiscal year. So in order to close out the fiscal year, we have to make some adjustments to the budget to address things that we did to save some money for fiscal year 18. And so I'll just kind of nibble around the edges and just have Mike walk you through the details of this $99 million set of adjustments. So Mike, you want to take it?
Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board. I'm Mike Schroeder, the Budget Director. As we said, it's $99 million, which is a lot of money. But if you want to put that into perspective, it really all has mostly to do with bond issuances. We issued $55 million for capital projects and another $15 million this year. And then part of what we did too is a bond refunding. It was about $14 million. So the majority of that $99 million is made up of those, and all the capital projects. The various projects come before the board, so you know what's going on there, and then the budget is just adjusted to put the money in the place where those projects will be occurring. And then the debt service is just used to prepay off some old bonds, so we expend that. We still have to pay the new ones off, but we end up doing it at a lower interest rate, so we end up saving taxpayers' dollars over the life of that payment. Now, I wish I could say that the general fund we were augmenting by $90 million, but we're only augmenting the general fund by $39,000, and that's just from a transfer from our community education fund, which was in the special revenue fund. We no longer need that, so that amount transfers into the general fund. That's another item on the board list for this week, or I think it was a consent agenda. But we're also doing some other things. I mean, mainly at this time of year, this is a routine thing that we do every year, and it's mainly to keep in line with the financial administration policies and statutes. First of all, if we have extra money like bond proceeds, then we're allowed to augment the budget to use that. We also can do transfers and report those to the board. So what we're really doing is projecting out our revenues, expenses for all our funds, kind of comparing it to where we were on our previous budget, and adjusting accordingly to comply with another statute, which really says that you're not allowed to spend money in excess of what you've appropriated. So we're trying to build some cushions in here so we're not in violation of that statute. So we're augmenting a lot of different funds, mainly, as I said, capital projects and debt service make up the bulk of this $99 million. But in the general fund, what we're really doing overall is reducing our expenditures, and this has to do with solving fiscal year 18's budget deficit. As you know, we promised that we identified $10 million in the current year to carry forward in next year to help offset that. Then we promised another $5 million in addition to that. One of the solutions also was to use $2 million in E-rate funding to help offset some information technology costs. And rather than do that in fiscal year 18, we're doing it in the current year. So that saves us $2 million more. So we're really looking to save $17 million and carry that forward. This augmented budget saves $12 million. It doesn't get to the $5 million. And the main reason for that is because, first of all, when we prepare this, we're over 2 months out before we're even done paying payrolls, paying bills, closing out our funds and all that stuff. We believe we'll get to the $5 million, but we still want to leave a cushion there, and it's really difficult to say specifically which category it's going to come out of and the amount. So we believe we'll get there through adding, that we may have revenues that are in excess of budget. We really don't know about that. We don't get our final LST and some of these other things till August. Then payroll postings in late July, account payable postings through the end of July also. So it takes a while to really figure out where we're at, but we expect to get there. So the 12 million we have identified, we talked about suspending OPEB, which is a charge we make for each employee that goes into our OPEB trust fund to help pay costs down the road for health insurance. That was
And
about
that would be other post-employment benefits.
yes, other post-employment benefits. I'm pretty sure I wrote that, but I didn't say it. Sorry.
Guilty of the acronyms.
We expect you to get used to it at some time, but. So that was about $3.5 million, and then we also talked about the E-rate, which was a little over $2 million, and we had textbooks, utility, fuel savings. We have $1 million in our contingency account that we won't use, and we'll basically transfer that to our ending fund balance. We reduced our bus and white fleet vehicle replacement and computer refresh and prevention and intervention that made up most of that other $7 million. So what happens is those savings we put into the ending fund balance, and it's a line item called balancing the subsequent year's budget. So there's about $12.5 million in there that will carry forward. By the time we get to the end of our year, that should be over $17 million that will help us offset next year's deficit. Besides the general fund, as I mentioned, we're doing several other funds. We did make one change after we sent out the board report to the capital projects fund. We received about $500,000 from the Indian colony through a special agreement there. And we had originally planned to just keep all of that and not spend it, but to help get to our extra $5 million, we're going to use about $182,000 of that to offset some current year expenditures in the general fund that are related to school renewal. So we've added a line item, an expense of $182,000 to the capital projects fund that wasn't part of the original amounts we sent out to you. And then that reduced the ending fund balance by $182,000. And the other funds we're augmenting, we pretty much wrote up an explanation for all those. If you guys have any questions regarding any of this, then I'd be happy to answer them.
Trustee Holland?
Thank you, President Taylor. First of all, great job on explaining all this and laying it out. It's very easy to track looking each paragraph and your explanation of how things change. So I really want to thank you for that because it's not easy. It's so complicated, and you've reduced it to something that that everyone can follow. I did have just a tiny question on the internal service fund budget comparison. There's under the stop loss insurance reimbursement change, there's an amount of $428,000 that's not only in parentheses, but it's in red in what we've received, and I just wondered what the significance of that was. It's on B12, I think. Yeah, attachment B12.
Okay. I think when the December augmented budget, I believe the way we had categorized some of these costs, there was a combination of things that got lumped in with stop loss that really should have been a different category. And so this one is just making it consistent with what reality is.
It's just a reduction like any other. It's
normally
in red just for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see. Why is that reduction in red? Gotcha.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Schroeder, Mr. Szynski?
We're good.
I think we're good, and we'll go on to agenda item 5.02.
Well, we have
No,
to, we
this
have
one
to,
you have
we
to.
Wasn't this this is the action one. Gotcha.
Both of them are action.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what we do, that's right, this is our resolution 17-008. So if it's the pleasure of the board, then I will entertain a motion.
I would move that the Board of Trustees adopts Board Resolution 17-008, a resolution to augment the fiscal year 2016-17 budget of the Washoe County School District and approves budget transfers as proposed in the amount of $99,185,853.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposition? All right, the motion is carried. So that takes care of that business for the Resolution 17-008. And so now we're on to Agenda Item 5.02, which is approval of the fiscal year, the upcoming fiscal year budget, 17-18, amended final budget. This is after the legislative session, and this too is for possible action. And to Mr. Zazinski and Mr. Schroeder again for a presentation.
Thank you, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board. Again, for the record, Tom Zazinski, Chief Financial Officer. So, as President Taylor stated, this is the amended final budget, so we have 30 days post-legislature close per NRS 354 598005 to update our budget. As most folks know, that at the end of the session we got some out-of-character per pupil funding that kind of took us by surprise. $6.5 million for fiscal year 18, and that number kind of doubles up to the same amount in fiscal year 19, or a total of about $13 million, a little over that. And so, again, the out-of-character per pupil resulted in legislative action, folks jumping in, and the governor himself. Again, we want to thank everybody involved to provide some bridge funding, $5 million worth of bridge funding. They got us almost all the way home in fiscal year 18, but we're still about $1.6 million short. So what Budget Director Schroeder and I are recommending to you through Superintendent Davis is that for the time being, we've got an estimated amount of Incline Village legal settlement that we don't know for sure what exactly our amount is. We've estimated worst case scenario based on numbers that we've received from the county. We're recommending to the board this evening that we just back off of that estimate by the $1.6 million to give ourselves some time to review all funding that comes our way out of Carson City in the next couple months, as it normally occurs at the end of any session, and then we can revisit that issue once we have that opportunity. So we've detailed all of the issues around the per pupil. I don't know if I need to repeat that unless you want us to get into the details. So that's basically our presentation to amend the final budget. Everything else is as is. We presented to you in our original final budget, where we solved a $40 million deficit. So now we're just solving the remaining $6.6 million deficit that occurred at the end of the session. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you for your work on that, by the way. A lot of things happened very fast towards the end of that session, and we know you guys were involved in providing a lot of information and really working with the state and working with the governor. And again, we continue to be appreciative of the efforts that were done at the state level from the governor's office to NDE to help with the bridge funding, as well as we continue to work to close this gap. So we certainly want to continue to go on record to thank them for that, for their commitment, for that work, and hopefully when it all settles down, we'll end up in a great place. So I just wanted to go on record first to thank you for that, and then also to thank them at the state level from the governor on down. Trustee Mayor?
You know, I'm sorry. So what we're doing is we're taking the money that we've set aside for the lawsuit in Incline Village, and we're taking part of that money and putting it into the budget and leaving how much behind for?
There's still 6.3 million
left.
Yes.
And so if after all the adjustments are made, after the opening of the school, if our budget looks like we could put that back, we'll put it back?
Correct.
It's just like it's loaning it to us. But if we need it, we'll keep it.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
You know, you guys amaze me. What do you do? Just sit in those little offices back there and rattle things that we can do, and oh man, that's one, because this is very innovative, and I applaud you both for it.
Well, it takes a team, so we appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the final budget for the 17-18 school year?
President Taylor, if I can, I would like to just applaud Mike and Tom for the work that they put into this, because it's been a real bumpy road. And I mean, we saw it in your expressions many times, but yet it never deterred you guys from staying focused on what it was all about. So I know on behalf of the board, we were nervous, and but we had faith in you guys. We had such faith in you guys. I know I absolutely have the ultimate faith in you guys because I've known you guys for a long time. And I just want to thank you because you kept us level-headed. You made us keep the faith. And we believed in you, and you know what? It paid off. So thank you so much. It was a lot of work. You've probably taken some medication behind the scene, but that's all right.
Just
okay.
a little. Just a little.
Deserved. But thank you so much because you really are what this team is all about. You
Well, we
definitely
appreciate
are about teamwork.
we appreciate that very much, and again, can't thank you enough for each of your support, Superintendent Davis for her support, Lindsay Anderson for her support. It really truly does take a team of people, working with their strengths to bring about positive results. So thank you. We really appreciate that.
I noticed there's some new jewelry on the team.
No, it's pretty old.
Pretty old?
Yeah.
Looks
it's-
shiny.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
All right.
that's the way it's supposed to be.
All right. All right, I think we're off the agenda just a little bit, all right.
Bring it back, council. Bring it back.
Oh, was that, okay. Agenda item 5.02, if it is the pleasure of the board, then I will entertain a motion that we approve the final amended budget for fiscal year 17-18.
I'll move that the Board of Trustees approves the amended final budget for fiscal year 27-18 as indicated in the background information and the fund schedules, with our great thanks to everyone that helped get us to this finish line so far.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? All right, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. Again, with heartfelt thanks for all of you, the team, the governor and his staff. We just appreciate all the work that was done to get us here. We do have guests here for agenda item 6.05. We've asked to, so we are going to accommodate their schedule and move that up. This is agenda item 6.05, presentation and update to the Board of Trustees on the development and process of the educational specs for new high schools and possible action for the board to approve additional philosophical items to be considered during the design process. This is because we are building schools. So we are welcoming you, ladies. Thank you for being here before us. I don't see Mr. Joe. Oh, there's Joe. He didn't know we were moving him up, so he's rushing in.
We weren't sure.
I was asked to move up, so. So before us, we'll just go to Mr. Joe Gabika. He'll introduce our guest, and we'll go for the presentation.
Good afternoon, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and members of the school board. For the record, Joe Gabika, I'm the interim chief facilities officer. Today, we're going to have a presentation presented to you from Tammy Zimmerman, who's our director of planning and design, and Ms. Judy Hoskins with the Cunningham Group. Judy and I go back a long way. Judy is she's going to be too humble to say all this herself, but she's the past president of CEFPI, which is Council of Educational Facilities Planners International, which is an international planning group for schools. She's been involved with some work with the school district about 15 years ago, some pretty serious master planning efforts for the school district, so she goes back with us a long way. And she's done the planning for literally hundreds of schools, so she's pretty good in this area. So anyway, with that, I'm going to turn it over to the ladies.
Thank you, Joe. Tammy Zimmerman, Director of Planning and Design. Thank you, President Taylor, for moving us forward. We appreciate that, and board members. We have to get Judy on the airplane back. She came just to see you guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with this. We promised you we'd be back when we awarded the contract to Cunningham Group, and we're going to move through that. Where did we start? We awarded to Cunningham Group in the spring. We then went to an inclusion of staff, community members, and students in the working group for the workshops. We did that by putting out requests for letters of interest to the community members, to high school administration and teachers at the high schools. We received letters back from them, and then We have what we call a steering group, and that steering group is central office administrators, department leaders, transportation, nutrition services, government services with Lindsay Anderson and that, Riley Sutton from communications, those kind of people on the steering committee that will help to lead the working group through the process as well. The Cunningham group helps both of those groups to lead us through that process, so we're excited about that work. Then we started to review the strategic plan that we have in place, the technology plan, and our 21st century plan. With our workshops, we started to create a facility vision and principles, and you'll see those later on in the slides. And then we'll start with our programming and future workshop meetings to organize the framework to support those visions and principles. The programming then, there are 2 programming meetings in there, and those recommend the space and proximity and environment and the requirements for equipment. Here are the meetings as they've been outlined for both of the working groups, the steering and the working groups. We are down through the June 22nd, 23rd, first round of programming, and we'll pick up with the steering committee working group on July 17th for workshop 3. With that, we have August 16th is our student working group, and we're looking for 20 students, approximately 3 from each high school, and we put out that request through Ben Hayes, through the VOICE program, to see if we can get a good diverse group to come and have input. And the 20 is to allow those students to feel comfortable to voice those concerns and ideas. Another one is the October 23rd is a highlight for the prep of the schematic design kickoff, and October 24th, the high school schematic design kickoff. That's where we actually get to see pieces and parts of it, so that's a big one to keep on calendars. We will be sending out those kind of dates and invites. And I'm going to let Judy go ahead and talk about the vision statement and the facility principles as we've started them through the process.
You bet. Thanks, everybody. President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and members of the board. It is a pleasure to be back, so thank you very much for this opportunity. The first place we started with the team that we are working with on these new educational specifications for the high school is to craft a facility vision statement, and you see that in front of you. The value of taking the time to craft a vision statement is it really guides the entire process. It helps us set priorities. It aligns our resources against those priorities, and we find it a very, very useful tool in moving through the process. Every time we gather the Educational Facilities Committee together, we get more and more granular. What you see in front of you is a set of facility principles, and essentially what that does is it takes that vision statement and now it develops a series of commitments, those items that the district is going to be relentless about in making sure that the facilities here really support the vision and the mission of WCSD. And you can see those in front of you. And I have to say that the group really, really worked hard to make sure that these words capture the essence of what's trying to be accomplished. Please note that these are principles in progress, and they will continue to be refined, but they really are guiding our planning and design efforts moving forward.
We would entertain any questions you guys might have.
Trustee Holland.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing those principles with us. I noticed the use of the term universal design principles. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
You bet. We know how important that accessibility is for all learners and for members of the community, and universal design is a set of principles that enable safe navigation through all our facilities and the sites.
And then I know that we've recently adopted the sustainability policies of the district, so I know that those will find their way into this language as well. How do you see that being incorporated with what we've?
That was a great discussion we had about sustainability when we started the vision principles and facility principles. And We have standards within capital projects construction that take that into account already. So there was a decision not to put it in the actual vision statement because we do that. We have a sustainability manager. We do that as a practice every day.
And I might even piggyback onto that, the operational savings that are part of that, but also the opportunity to instill a sense of stewardship within our learners is also another opportunity that goes along with that.
Oh, no, go ahead, please.
Sorry, this is really exciting to me. I'm just absolutely enthusiastic about this. I'm wondering, with the diversity of the groups that you are working with, or the folks who are representing diverse groups, how do you manage conflicts about, should we do X or should we do Y? Are you doing votes? Are you reaching consensus? How's that working?
We generally reach a consensus. The Cunningham group is used to those big diverse groups, and they lead us to that consensus gently, but with purpose. And that's part of why we have a consultant come in and do those with us.
I just wanted to thank you for the work, and I know that one of the things I've learned in my short term on the school board is that everyone is an expert on education.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've all been to school.
That's correct.
So I know that you must have just a wide variety of opinions about how to proceed forward, and I really value seeing the list of principles, and I know you said they're kind of a living document, but I think that's a wonderful place to start, and I really applaud what you've come up with, so thank you.
Thank you. I don't as much have a question as a comment. I really liked seeing that you have a specific place carved out for student input. Instead of saying they can come because it's open and but you have specifically said we want to reach out to every high school because they see things so much. We know this. They see things so differently than we do. Something that would be so obvious to them, we can completely miss it. And we want them to feel proud about the high schools that are being developed and these specs that are being put in place. And so just to really carve out a special place to get their input, I really want to commend you for that. I think that's really, really important and something that can really easily be missed. But you've gone out of your way to make sure it was included. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, Trustee Raymond.
Thank you, President Taylor. Along those lines, I am so happy to see the student group on here and wondered kind of, I think some people might see that that's just a way to give them a voice, but maybe their opinion doesn't really matter that much. I don't believe that's true, but how will you include them in the process after their working group is done, and could we have a representative here in November from that group and kind of see some closure with them so that they do see that their input, was heard and hopefully is, reflected in the final product.
And we do expect to see them at the schematic design to actually have that input and feel like they got the buy-in for it.
Did that answer your question?
I think so. Once they're selected, we will send out invites for them to be at that schematic design. So, yes.
And that way, hopefully, they can show up and see.
They can show up and see that we listened.
Okay, good. Thank you. Trustee Mayor? Thank you, Trustee Raymond.
Now, those specifications that we came up with I think it was last year sometime, the 16th, those will be incorporated into this.
What we came up with in October of 2016 were the elementary and middle school specifications for specific to those two types of schools. This is specific to the high school.
So we'll get a whole range like that, including how the bathroom facilities are going to be designed and things like that. And that's going to be as this committee runs through these processes.
It will look very much like those two specifications and will come back to you and be presented.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. Any other comments or questions? If not, they're looking for just a motion to approve the direction to continue to go forward on this road that Tammy and Julie are leading us down. And then we look forward to them coming back to the board, if that's the pleasure. of my colleagues?
Go forth.
Yeah, I'll take that as a motion.
That you go forth, as you've presented.
That we take that certainly as a motion. Second, there's been moved and seconded that you go forth. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposition? All right, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. Ladies, thank you so much for your work.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And safe travels back home. Yeah, safe travels back home. Why don't we take a quick break here just at this point, and then we can move on to the... So let's take 10 minutes, and we'll come right back here. We are in recess for 10 minutes. Thanks, everyone. Okay, we will now reconvene our meeting of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees. And we will jump to agenda item 6.03, I believe. This is an informational presentation, which means it's just for information and discussion only, by staff and Mr. Jeff Scott. Welcome, Mr. Scott. Excuse me, and Ms., is it Betty? Beate. And Beate Weiner. Welcome, Beate Weiner of the Washoe County Library System regarding the partnership. This is great between the school district and the library system. Again, this is for information and discussion. We're going to turn it over to Ms. Kendra Fox to introduce all of our guests here. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, President Taylor, Superintendent
Welcome,
Davis, members of the board. I'm back again. For the record, I'm Kendra Fox. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction. And about 2 years ago, Library Services was moved under Curriculum and Instruction in a small reorg. And it's been really a fun partnership. For that last 2 years, we've done some really cool things. One of the, I think, most notable things that we've tried to undertake is a data sharing where our students, when parents register their students for school, they can choose to get a Washoe County Library card. So there's a little box to push saying, I want my student to have a Washoe County Library card. And at that moment, then Washoe County gets, there's an upload process, but then they have access to all the online resources, and then they can go to the library and get a library card. So that has been really a fun project. So we were here, I think, about 1.5 years ago to give you an update, and I know a lot of you are new since then, so we thought we'd come back and give you just another update and kind of share what we've done since then, and just to give you an update about the Washoe County Library. Since then, also, we do have a library coordinator for the school district, and so I'd like to introduce Holly Esposito. She is the district library coordinator, so she helps support all of our 102 libraries. And then Mr. Jeff Scott, he's the Washoe County Library Director, and Beate Weinert is, what's your official title?
Programs and Community Collaborations.
And so I'll turn it over to Holly, and she will start, and then she'll turn it over to Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and members of the board. For the record, I am Holly Esposito, the Washoe County Library Coordinator. And I wanted to thank you for your support in libraries. I ask that you continue to honor and value our expertise of our library professionals as they connect with students, teachers, parents to the resources and services that they need for their schools and their school communities. I just wanted to go over some research about school library programs. That school library programs are critical to teaching and learning. They integrate the mission of the school and the district. They meet curriculum standards across subjects and grade levels. They initiate collaboration with teachers across content areas to develop engaging and motivating student-centered learning opportunities. They teach information skills, responsibilities, and self-assessment strategies to learn and achieve. They provide instruction that addresses multiple literacies, including information literacy, media, visual, and technology literacy. Student library programs, the research shows that they also improve student achievement. The research from the 2016 State of American Libraries demonstrate a strong relationship between student achievement and the quality of school library programs. They show that access to books through school libraries develops lifelong positive attitudes in students towards reading and help them read more. It consistently shows that students perform better on tests when there is a full-time certified librarian and appropriate assistant on staff. Collaborative planning between school librarians and teachers enhance student learning. The higher the number of school visits to the library, the higher the scores on student achievement tests. School libraries are crucial to learning and inquiry. Many of the students indicate inquiry-based learning, that it provides students with a strong foundation of learning skills that will serve them throughout their lives. The school librarians collaborate with classroom teachers on projects to model information search process, initiative, and perseverance in using a variety of resources. School librarians are leaders and instructional partners. Technology leaders who understand students, the curriculum, and technology. They blend new technologies with the curriculum. They provide training for students and staff. They initiate collaboration to meet various standards, connect students to understand their interests and motivations that are crucial to inquiry-based learning. And school libraries are also places of opportunity. They are safe zones that support students' efforts to explore, create, and confidently present findings. They are respectful places that provide equitable access to resources and information and ideas, and they encourage students to pursue and develop interests, promote reading by providing strong connections in various formats and organizing activities. I have an infographic here for our libraries I'd like to pass out, and I also have a presentation for you that shows what has been going on in our school libraries this past year.
and then we have our presentation, Washoe County Library Systems partnerships with the Washoe County School District. So we have a variety of programs and services that are going right now, and then things we're looking at in the future. So that I give you a little recap of our partnership, and then where we're going in the next year. So.
Before you go on, I just want to say we didn't have pillows in my library when I was. That's pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Thank you. So currently we have the summer reading program that's ongoing, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. Build a Better World is ongoing. We get our kickoff June 1st, so we're already having signups. The program is done through Read Squared, so people can sign up online, complete the tasks, and get signed up for prizes. For book prizes, we also have a partnership with the Reno Aces this year, where if you complete a certain task, you'll be able to get a free ticket for the Reno Aces game on August 21st. So partnership with the school district, we have the Striving Readers Grant that we've done in the past, parent university workshops, public library tours. One of the initiatives, part of the Striving Readers, was the school-wide card carrying project. So that was, we would challenge the schools to get 90% of the children to be signed up for a library card. If they did that, then the principal would kiss a pig, and so would I. So here's the evidence of that success. So it was a really great success, and we're going to continue to do that outreach to do that. And we're looking at different ways, as we mentioned that before. We have the opt-in program for school enrollment. So when you enroll your child into the Washoe County School District, you will get a form that says, do you want to get a library card? And they can click on yes, and they'll get the information. They'll get a digital library card that they can get a full library card when coming into the library. So it gives them access faster, and it makes the coverage more complete with the school district. So some of the services we provide that you can get with the library card. Tumble Books provides access from all Washoe County School District schools without the need to provide authentication. So Tumble Books is sort of like an online story time. You go and read the story, it reads it to you, and it highlights the words as it's being read. So it gives you good integration with early literacy initiatives and helps with reading skills as well. Curriculum Support BrainFuse is an online tutoring system. So you can go online if you're having trouble with your classes, need some help. There's tutors online available to help in a live chat. So you give them what you're working on. They can help you work through the problem and improve your score. Other programs, lynda.com, Learning Express. Learning Express is something where you can get, if you're looking to do testing, so GED, vocational testing, other kind of testing. You can download ebooks for free, and it gives you practice tests that you can work on to achieve your goals there. Mango Little Pim, so that's language learning. So if you're traveling or you want to learn Spanish, there's also a version for little children as well. So they can learn a language when they're still young and their minds are still able to learn new languages more easily than us adults. And online encyclopedias, periodicals. And then we make presentations to the K-12 library services and keeping the school librarians aware of our resources and vice versa. So we do regular presentations and updates to make sure we're getting usage from these resources and they're more aware of them. And we have a good relationship with Kendra and Holly, and that's ongoing for a year and a half now. So it's good stuff. So we do the show for the Nevada Reading Week and do workshops. So a big highlight there was we brought our 3D printer for that. So we do coding camps now. So we have Chromebooks, coding camps. They learn to code through NC Labs, and they're starting to learn using coding 3D printers and coding their 3D items. And so that was the highlight of our Nevada Reading Week. A lot of people came to check that out, so it's a really cool service. Presentations, professional learning, community sessions, Saturday cafes, conferences, faculty administrative meetings, and we also have partnership libraries at Duncan Trainer, Verde Elementary, and in Grillock. So further presentations, we go to the first grade initiatives, kinder fairs, family engagement events, PTA meetings, science nights, career events. If you have an event of educational nature, we will be there with bells on. So some of the early literacy initiatives that we have focused on this past year, we talked about the Washoe County School District library cards. So when you enroll your child into a school, you'll get a form that says you want to get your child a library card. You opt in, you get the information, and then your child has a library card once they're enrolled. So we're uploading that information in a database to make it mesh and to make sure that we get that clear. So the second phase of that is a child fine free card, so children will not accrue fines when they check out children's materials. in the future. We're also waiving past fines as well. So when they come to the school, when they come to the library with their new library card from the school district, then we'll make sure to waive any kind of past fines or fees that are on the card, so they get a fresh start. So that's really our goal. Fines and fees are the biggest barrier to using libraries for children. Everyone has had a child, and there's been a child where they've lost many a book, moving and whatnot, and we don't want to penalize those children for those kinds of mistakes, and make sure they keep consistent usage of the library. We're also refocusing early literacy initiatives in partnership with United Way. United Way is embarking on the campaign for grade level reading. So that's the same thing with the Read by 3, trying to get children school ready and getting them reading by the 3rd grade. So are the early literacy focus? We have toddler time, story times, Pause to Read, which is a program we have where seniors bring in their dogs and the children read to them to build their confidence and reading ability, reading out loud. We do Head Start visits on a regular basis, and we have a partnership with the Northern Nevada Literacy Council. So what they do is a more robust version of our story time. So they'll do our story time and break the parents and the children into different sessions. So if the parents are having language barriers, financial issues, they help them with that, as well as emphasize the story time that the children just received. So they'll have a craft and conversation about the story time to help with those early literacy initiatives and comprehension. So Makerspaces, like I mentioned, NC Labs is a program that's sponsored by the Nevada State Library. So we provide coding camps. So we'll have Chromebook labs that we have available. Children will come in and they'll go through the program sort of like a game. So they'll type in the code, and when they get it correct, they'll get rewarded with prize or fireworks and give the information that way. So that it really helps them with those cognitive skills. We talk about literacy, we talk about math skills. Coding is really becoming that extra skill that children really need to learn to be ready for 21st century employment. We have startup schools, so entrepreneurs in the area looking to go into business, start a business through the entrepreneur, through their idea. We take that idea to reality by doing a startup school, so that gets them through, works through the process on how to start a business, what that entails, financial backup, that sort of thing, so we get them ready for bringing their idea into a business. We're changing our program right now. We had MT1, changing it to M1, and that's Manufacturing Technician 1. So as a large influx of manufacturers coming into the area need skilled employees, we're working with Truckee Meadows Community College to help build those programs to make sure that the adults have the aptitude to get into the program, and if not, bringing it up to that aptitude so they can get into that program. So it's help advertising manufacturing as a career. That's a very lucrative career, and making sure they have the skills to enter into that. So Chromebook labs and training, so it's multifaceted to have the Chromebooks available. 3D printer coding, we're working with UNR right now to help us with the next phase of coding. So there's lots of coding groups that are associated with UNR that we're bringing into the library to help take us to the next level. As competent as librarians are, there's a level of coding where we need to bring in university professional people to come in and do that. And Tara Rednecke and Todd Goldgrove with UNR De La Mare Library has been really instrumental in taking us to the next level with that. So we're providing more funding for our Makerspace budget. So our idea boxes right now, they travel to different libraries. They have photo booth, they have music box, they have art box. So building those STEAM concepts in a more hands-on kind of way. And then we're looking to enhance that next year with additional funding for innovation to build on top of the idea boxes. So renovation, so it's an exciting time to be part of the Washoe County Library. So we're renovating our facilities. This came to fruition through a multi-step process. First, we were provided $900,000 to the from the Taquino Trust, left in our will. So it's a nice little seed to start with. We negotiated with them where they would pay for renovations, but they would not pay for anything they would consider regular maintenance. They wouldn't pay for carpet, they wouldn't pay for asbestos abatement at Downtown Reno Library, but they would pay for furniture, fixture, and equipment and technology. So we brought that to the county, and they were able to match those fundings. So we have $3.1 million now to renovate the Downtown Reno Library, the Sparks Library, and Northwest Library. Major focus of these are going to be expanding the children's area. So and I'll go into that in detail, but downtown Reno Library, the children's area is on the ground floor. We want to bring it up to the main floor with the concept of, if you're a parent with a young child and you're coming on the bridge, we don't want you to have to take an elevator to get to the children's area. You just make a right and that's your section. We'll have more interactive features, larger area, better collection to offer for people going downtown for the library services. So it's a very exciting time for us to with these renovations. So, as you may know, downtown Reno Library was built in 1966. It had a mid-century modern style to it, so we're bringing back that look to the style of the library, including the mid-century modern furniture, new carpet, asbestos abatement, repainting, and new lighting. And like I mentioned, the expanded children's area, expanded makerspace area to make that more welcoming as people come in. So. Fourth floor makerspace will have 3 different components: a digital, physical, and early literacy makerspace. So some of the concepts we're talking about is coding for early literacy. So you can code the robot to go a certain way. If you know the logic to it, you can learn those kinds of processes. Helps those cognitive abilities at a younger age. Physical makerspace is both for families generally. So some of the things you see with UNR De La Mare Library, you 3D coding. You can do soldering kit, sewing. It's a library of things kind of concept that you can look at and check out or use at the library. And then also the digital makerspace, providing top of the line Macs with full software on there, so you can do video, photo editing with the software and equipment to do that as well. So it gives people that extra leg up where they can afford to purchase these things on their own, and there's limited access to both the university and the school to take it to the next level, and we're giving them that boost with this kind of service. Ground floor, public access computers. We're going to enhance historical resources that are available there, put them all in the same area. So when you come and do research on your Nevada history, we'll have that more readily accessible. Or increasing security cameras, getting a second security guard to help manage the crowds that are there. And the children's area moved to the main floor. 2 family restrooms are going to put on the floor. That's the floor what it looks at right now. So it's kind of a dead space, but making the children's area more shelving, more children's furniture, early literacy computers where they learn computing concepts, using familiar cartoon characters, Dora the Explorer, SpongeBob SquarePants, and having it on a computer so they can learn typing, math, reading skills using those computers as well. And the youth librarian's office will be right there as well, so someone always readily available. If you have a question, someone there to handle your questions. So it's going to be really a transformed space when we're done with that. So it's really exciting for us. So why children's service is important to us? One of the things we've pitched to the general public is that when a child is born, comes home from the hospital, from that time to when they enter school, we don't have a consistent knowledge of what that experience is. Are they going to daycare? Are they going to preschool? Are they going to the most expensive Montessori school money can buy? We don't know where they're going. So the idea is that we need to make sure that these children are ready for kindergarten, and that they're ready, they're reading by grade level. So one of the initiatives we're working on with United Way is partnering with different early literacy groups, specifically the Children's Cabinet, has developed a curriculum called I'm Ready for K. And so this is done at the state school district office, makes the combination. So when a child completes the I'm Ready for K booklet with the parent, they actually are ready for all the concepts that they will be taught in school. So they will be literally ready for school. So when we talk about it, sort of a squishy concept about what school readiness means, we're talking about a way in which if the child knows these benchmarks, they'll be ready for school. And then it makes it easier for the school district to serve, and we also have it in Spanish as well. And it'll be ready for the school district will not spend as much time on children who are not ready. That detracts from the general school environment and the classroom environment. So this is one of the big initiatives we're rolling out. We're having librarians being trained this summer on the early literacy initiatives to enhance the school story times, and then providing these booklets to the parents that come into our story times as well, and then looking at outreach where we can distribute them more widely. So the parent network is the key network and the early literacy initiative, and then that's the ones that will come into our library before they go into school. So what can we do in the meantime to get them school ready? And these are some of the things we're doing to do that. So that's our focus with that. And the Children's Cabinet has been a really essential component of that moving forward. So some of the items that you can read in the booklet, stop the summer slide. So a child that may be behind in school a little bit, it becomes wider during the summer. They're not in school regularly. They're not getting the regular reading initiatives done. And so coming to the summer reading program, Build a Better World, they can get rewarded for doing these really simple initiatives. Reading 30 minutes a day, coming to our programs, coming to our programming, making parents understand that reading is a social act, reading the book, but then also asking questions about what they understood, getting that comprehension down, and encouraging that reading is fun. It's an essential task, but it's fun. The magic of reading. So our program launched, early launch was May 15th, full launch was June 1st. We did kickoff programs branch-wide. Verdi was really nice because we had a really nice setup. Verdi, if you've ever been to the Verdi school and the library there's lots of taxidermied animals in the room. So they're out there having their kickoff party with the giant bear in the background. So it brings the entertainment that much higher with that. And then we also do some more outreach opportunities. So Family Fest will be at different community outreaches throughout the summer. So we're going to be Our Town. We're going to be at Pride. We'll be at the Reno Mini Maker Fair. So you'll see us pretty much everywhere. If there's a major event, we'll be there for it. So some of the things you'll see, summer reading, we have programs that you bring children into the library. Biggest Little Bug Adventure, Nevada Bugs and Butterflies, Mad Science Prevents Fire and Ice, and a partnership with the Reno Aces. So we're working on getting that up and running now, but we'll have a ticket sales available shortly. So when they complete that task, the child will get a free ticket. We'll also be selling the ticket, so part of the proceeds will go towards the library's initiative, Give the Gift of Reading, which is a fundraiser we do every year to help support the early childhood education collection, to making sure that we can raise about $20,000 to buy 1,000 more books for that collection on top of what we're already providing for in the collection. So I want to thank you for the time today, and I hope that helped illuminate some of the great partnership we have with the school district and some of the library initiatives that can help children in the school. We have some party swag here for you, so you don't go away empty-handed. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the library.
That was really impressive. Jeff, really impressive. It's great to see the partnerships, the things that you're doing that help us get to that goal of making sure our kids are reading at grade level. Read by 3, but it's fantastic. The things that you're doing is incredible. I was really impressed.
Great. Thank you.
Really, and you have me excited about the renovations that are going to be done.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, me
it's
excited
going to be if you like Mad Men, if you go to West Elm, then it's going to look like that. So
awesome.
It'll look like it was 1966. So.
Awesome, thank you. Fantastic. Dr. Feemster, I see you, and then Superintendent Davis.
Yes, wonderful presentation. I'm very impressed. I would like someone to answer specifically questions about the Glenn Duncan Joint Use Library, because over the past 3 years, it's been a fight for those guys. And I see all of this, and I sort of cringe, because I do not see this happening there. And if we want to start with those students who need the most help, I've got to tell you, that's an area to begin with. And it's also, it's been neglected. And I'm just wondering what is going on there this summer. Can we talk to someone and find out exactly what's going on? Is there a librarian on, just on site at the Joint Use Library? Is the person at the Trainer Library? Is the person at Glenn Duncan? But I've got to tell you, it's been, unless I've been reading the wrong emails from Andy Barbanos, I got to tell you, something is going wrong. It was down to like 2 hours a week being open. That is critical. I mean, that is like, it was very sad. I found that just so alarming.
Sure.
2 hours a week where these were the guys who needed help. Of course, it's needed everywhere, but specifically this area, I'm just very disturbed by it, and I know I'm not the only person, and I don't know who's out there working with the particular community in the summer, but I just want to know who's in charge, how many hours is the library open, if it's even opened, I'm not sure. but it's alarming, and I mean, I'm sure you.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer your questions. So since coming on board, the one thing that was happening the year before I came on board was the attempted closing of the partnership libraries, which was brought back, which was huge community resistance to that. So my philosophy is a lot different. So we want to expand the libraries in the partnership libraries. The reason why we have partnership libraries is you can't build a branch in those areas through financial or land or other reasons. So we want to bring back services back to the partnerships. So in the last year and a half, we brought back the programming, we brought back story time. We're bringing the summer reading program back into the branches, back into Duncan Traynor, Verdi.
So how many hours is that library open?
So an hour open as of last summer. We're open 5 days a week. So we're open from Sunday through Thursday, 1 to 5 every day. And then during the week, it's 3 to 6 because we can't be open when the school is open.
Right.
So, and then in the summer, we change those hours to 1 to 4 so we can open a little earlier for the kids in the area. And we're trying to make assistance since the pool is out of commission during the summer, trying to do what we can to help entertain the kids and keep them engaged in the summer. The coding camps, a lot of the coding camps we're doing at Duncan Traynor, we're doing their story times, we're doing the big programs, the Nevada Bugs and Butterflies, those are the things that are going to be at Duncan Traynor as well. So we're bringing back the programming and treating it as a regular branch. So it's a lot different from what you've heard a few years ago. It's a full service library that we're providing service. I can provide you contact with John Crockett, who is our branch manager of Sierra View, who also manages that partnership as well. So we brought back services full force in that community. We're talking to the community members. We've been to the Second Cup of Coffee, so doing the promotion in Spanish. We're also partnering with the Northern Nevada Literacy Council, and they meet often on Sundays there. So for parents, so they go through the process of getting the story time, getting language assistance, financial assistance from NNLC, and also the kids get that enhanced reading comprehension through their efforts as well. So that's, if you from 2 years ago to now, it's starkly different. So yeah, I'd invite you to come and check it out. So it's a lot different.
I would be more than happy because it's been a fight. It's been a
absolutely.
Huge fight because other libraries were open and yet they would 2 hours. And then they were ready to close it. And it just seemed like the focus was on in the wrong areas, that's all.
Absolutely.
But I do appreciate this, and it's great to hear that the librarians are working with you. I think that's so important because the library is the hub of the school. Every student should go to that library. But I got to tell you, you can just talk to educators and you will hear rumbling about how librarians have a certain attitude, not all, I'm not going to say it's all, but I got to tell you, it can bring up a big noise if you talk about how libraries are open to the students in the school. And I'm speaking of every school. It is so important that the library has an opening atmosphere, and that librarian is trained in every aspect of technology and working with the community instead of just closing those doors at 2:30 or 2:10. And I would guarantee you, I'm sure it's still happening, that they close at 2:10. I think it's so important for libraries to stay open because you never know who you're going to encourage by who the next poets are going to be, or writers. I think that's so important, and I have seen this. It still exists. People actually sort of think librarians live in a closed world and don't want the library books checked out. And my God, if you owe a fine, that's crazy, which I was happy to hear that you said something about no more fines.
Fine-free, right.
My goodness. I mean, but all of this stuff, it still goes on in some places. And I think it's time to whoever is the library coordinator, is it you, Kendra? I am. Okay, I think the librarians, I'm so passionate about this because this is not the end of this. I got to tell you, I appreciated the presentation. A lot of stuff is in there, but a lot of people are not doing what I think there should be a better effort, and you did mention training. I think that is so important. We have to train librarians to be the hub of the school, to make that place.
Let me just jump in if I may, just because the presentation here, we really just on that partnership. right, with us in the Washoe County library system. And so that may require some more information in terms of the libraries that happens within the schools.
And that's why I said I think it's good that they partner, have the meetings together, because what I'm hearing is training from you, sir, and I really appreciate that. And you could bring the training to our schools, especially the schools where it's needed. And I'm sure that that's not a secret, and I just hope that I hope it continues. I love this. I think it's absolutely wonderful. It's what's needed. And I just want it to be continued and recognized in the community, because parents aren't quite aware of this. I could guarantee you that.
Well, and I think part of that is because since Jeff's been on board for the last couple of years, there are some changes that have been happening, and so he's coming to share with us. So this can be a part of getting that more information out, and looks like more opportunities just since the addition of your being on board and making those changes. We're in the process of taking some good steps, and we want to continue to see that happening. That's what I'm hearing from you, Trustee Feimster.
It has to happen.
Yeah, looking forward to that continuing to happen.
That's where it starts, and I just want it to be a welcoming place. That's all. And and obviously the public libraries are, and I'm glad to see everything that you guys are doing. And I think we have a lot. If we truly partner together, have joint meetings, I think our librarians can gain a lot. So
can do some good things together. Good partnership.
Absolutely, because it is a partnership.
Good partnership.
I can provide some more specific updates to Superintendent Davis to share with all of you about
great.
circulation and hours that are open and the training that we provide. We have, about between 4 and 6 trainings a year for all our librarians that are longer and working with different departments in the school district. So I could provide some updates to share with all of you.
I think if you do it, that might provide some of the additional information in terms of hours and so on, as well as that Trustee Feimster was asking about.
I'll be happy to.
I think the teachers need this information too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much. Trustee Mayor?
Yeah, I have I live 2 blocks from the Sparks Library, and my kids live there on Saturday, storytelling and everything, and they're avid readers. They never do anything without a book in their hand. But at Mendive, they're used to, and they built it that way so that adults and kids could go to the library there after school hours and weekends. The door was on the north side of the school, and they go in there and check it out. But somehow that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, we closed the Mendive Library when we opened some of the other libraries as part of our new branch builds between 2000 and 2010. So there was better services provided at a branch than there was at the school.
Yeah, the branch Sparks Library's on 12th Street, and we're talking about 24th Street East plus the 12. The kid, that's a long way to go on his bicycle. The other one you put on Spanish Springs, it's 10 miles away from the kid. And so the kids really have no way to walk or ride a bike to the library, where they used to at Mendive, and they built it that way. They built it to be a co-op like, and now I feel sorry for those kids, because that's part of growing up, is going, we used to go and watch Hopalong Cassidy and then check out books and stuff when I was a kid. But my kids would go down at Judy Vaughn was the librarian down in Sparks, and my kid would go down there, check out 4 or 5 books, and they'd discuss them on Saturday and everything. And then she'd discuss with the kids, and that was a connection that even teachers don't have. My son, he'd make noise about 5 o'clock in the morning. I said, "Oh, what you doing?" "Well, I'm getting ready to go to the library." I said, "It opens 10 o'clock. But that was a highlight of some of the kids' life. That's Sparks Library. And then Mendive, same thing. Kids that lived out there, young kids, they'd go over there, they'd walk, check out a couple books, sit there. And another thing, I go to the library, and you might as well put up Washoe County Library and Homeless Shelter, because you got dirty people in there that are terrifying kids. and I mean terrifying kids. Maybe you could section off a place where they go. I know they have to get out of the cold or something, but it's really a bad thing, I think.
Well, mostly what we're doing with the renovations is separating the public access computers out of the children's areas, because usually the homeless population will tend to use those. So keeping it separate and away from a general entrance will make it where it naturally creates its own section.
So the kids' computers I saw lined up there, those are basically just for kids.
Right.
And then you got a section for adults that were looking for a job or
Right. Yeah.
heaven knows what.
Like, for instance, downtown Reno, the computers are on the main floor and then downstairs. So we're trying to put everything downstairs and move the children's area upstairs. So there's definitely a separate area for both.
So you've recognized the problem.
Yeah, you can easily separate those populations so that they don't have to mix if they don't want to.
That's great, because that's one of the biggest complaints I get now.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't let my kids go down there, you know.
Yeah, we'll see that at Spark. So we're downtown Reno will be this fall. We're looking at renovating, and then in the next fiscal year, 2018, we'll start on Sparks and Northwest with those initiatives in place.
Both of them, Northwest and Sparks?
Yes, right.
Okay. And
Thank you, Jeff.
You know, I think too, Washoe County, we need to get certified librarians in the elementary school. If it weren't for the ladies that volunteer their time and go in there and volunteer for the school, we'd be in trouble. I think it's time that we look at having certified librarians in the elementary school.
One thing I would say on that is that starts getting into a little different of an agenda item, and when we deal with those things as a board, that's something for us to always take a look at when we deal with budgets and stuff like that. Those are decisions that we can certainly all make.
Well, maybe they could help us in training certified librarians.
Maybe they could. Superintendent Davis? Thanks, Trustee Mayor.
Well, I just thought continuous improvement process for all of us, right? I just want to say that when you were talking about the programs, it reminded me of being a teacher and a principal and ensuring every kid got a library card and the love of reading and what reading affords all kids. But specifically when we talk about graduation starts pre-K, and when I was looking at the domains and the standards, how important those things are for our families to know, because when you come to kindergarten, sometimes there is a disadvantage, and I don't think people really realize some great skill sets that kids need to have before they even get to kindergarten, things that should happen in pre-K. So this is absolutely fabulous. So I just want to, because this to me is the road to graduation. Right. It started way before their senior year, and good information for our families.
Yeah, okay, excellent, thank you.
Yes, Trustee Simon Holland.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank all of you for the spirit of collaboration. Jeff, it's great to have you here in Washoe County. And it's not this way everywhere in the country. Washoe County early on and the school district partnered. Were really leaders early on in creating those partnership libraries. And I just compliment all of you for keeping that spirit of collaboration, cooperation alive, because it's not always easy. And we have places where it works better than others, but I really appreciate that spirit that you all bring to it, and I just hope if there's anything we can do to help you and support all of you. This is amazing stuff that you guys are doing, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. We are benefiting, our students are benefiting because of your work, so certainly concur with that. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you for your great work. Agenda item 6.04. This is a presentation and the possible approval of the revised calendar for our Gerlach schools. And so before us, I'll just turn it over to you, Mike. You can introduce the team here and let's see what's going on with Gerlach.
Okay,
welcome.
President, thank you. President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board. For the record, I'm Mike Doring, Executive Director of Student Services. I'm here today with Katie Hadley, who's our principal at North Star Online School. But beginning this upcoming school year, Katie is also going to provide support to our Gerlach K-12 school. Of all of the schools in the district, there's probably no school that's more unique than Gerlach K-12, based on its remoteness, the small number of students that are served through that educational system. We're here today to give a brief presentation on Gerlach K-12 school, but also to ask the board for a calendar change for the upcoming school year, which would be for 2 school years, to best meet the needs of the students, the staff, and the families in that community. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Katie to do our presentation.
Great. Figure out how to turn this. You can see I haven't been before you very often.
I can click for you.
Superintendent Davis, members of the board, it's a pleasure to be here. Before I get started, I'm going to do some shameless outreach to you and invite you August the 2nd to North Star for our annual open house. It is always fun, and many of you have come to be with us. The reason that North Star and Gerlach are connected is through our curriculum. Gerlach is isolated. Up until last year, they had 1 teacher trying to meet all the needs of K-12 students. So North Star began partnering with them probably a year before my time in providing some of the online curriculum so that the teacher didn't have to try to be all things for all students. So my relationship with Gerlach goes back about 4 years, but this is actually my first year as their principal. Roughly 21 students last year. We hear the gypsum plant is open and more families are moving in, so we do anticipate those numbers will be growing. The staff currently has 2 teachers plus the part-time teachers at my site, and roughly 6 to 8 full and part-time classified students. Go on. Why do we need a calendar change? I know that you all are familiar with Burning Man, and it's a huge event for Gerlach, bringing in 70,000 attendees that come right through the center of that little town. And until I began speaking to Tracy, the teacher, I didn't really connect all the dots, but it's really a big deal. And up until this point, they haven't had any major issues, but we want to get ahead of that curve so that there aren't ever any issues where students are in any kind of safety or jeopardy. There are a lot of strangers that come in and out of the area, excessive traffic, sometimes there's trash left on the yard, people camping out, and it just seems like it's time to look at how we can support the Gerlach students with that. You can see from this map how close Burning Man is to Gerlach, and 99% basically of the attendees come right through town. You've probably seen the lines of traffic headed out that way. So it is a big deal. And they're proposing to close school the week prior. This would help the students and the staff cope with the impact. Many times some of the students can't get to school anyway because of the situation, and that's not good. They're proposing to be closed the week before, which will be Monday, August the 28th through Friday, September the 1st. That's the week that the event goes on. And then make up that time during that 3rd week during the winter break. We have reached out to our collective bargaining units. They've been in favor of it. They did a survey, handwritten. There were some that was email. I mean, they did any way they needed to in Spanish, however they got to 100% of students, staff, and families. And there was 100% response, and 100% are in favor of this.
Probably won't see that
I won't
again.
give you the numbers because the numbers are tiny, but the 100% is really good.
100% is 100%.
Just like they had 100% graduation last year. We had our Gerlach student with North Star. If you were at our graduation, it was wonderful. If you're in favor of this change and you approve it, we will be notifying the families through ConnectEd, email, and also personal communication by the school staff so that the parents are prepped and ready and there won't be any surprises around the time being off and they can make their plans with their family. Any questions?
Hard to argue with 100%. Trustee Mayor?
Yes, in fact, that's a great little town, and I think this is a good idea. And is that the student that graduated this year? up
No,
back
their
there?
teacher.
Because
She's so young, I know, but that is
Yeah.
Stacy Black. She's amazing. She has
the
done
reason
such a
I-
wonderful job.
Yeah, but the reason I'm asking, our countdown to graduation that the communications department puts on is so splendid. I read every one 3 or 4 times, and the girl from Gerlach is going to go to college in Oregon, and then she's going to become a baker and go back to Gerlach and open up a bakery. And I just wanted to know if she wouldn't let me know when she opens, and when I go out there hunting arrowheads and stuff, that I could stop in a bakery of one of our former students at Gerlach. And I'm sure that's true, that she wants to go back, and she'll make her overhead the 1 week.
Yeah. It was a really amazing graduation, and the entire school took a field trip to our graduation. So it was really
The
exciting.
entire 21 of them?
All of them. So hey, we're going to inspire students starting in kinder to be
Hear
ready
that?
to go to college and graduate high
Fantastic.
school.
Hear that, the communications department? 21 of them came in to watch the girl graduate with your online school. That's neat. I bet that doesn't happen too many places. What do you think?
All right, is there a motion?
Actually, I have a quick question.
Yes. Trustee Kelly?
And I have no problem with making this recommendation. To me, it's a no-brainer. And legal, maybe you can make sure that I'm not getting off the agenda, but I'm also a little bit concerned that if people during Burning Man are, trying to camp out on the football field and walking around the school and doing things. So I'm wondering if another agenda item should be, can school police have a little bit more of a presence in Gerlach at the school before and during Burning Man? Now, is that too much off the agenda? Should I?
Well, I definitely think it's off this agenda, but I see Superintendent Davis writing stuff down, so maybe, and I know the chief's here, but it's definitely off the agenda for today. Yeah.
Sounds like it may be outside of our purview in a couple of different ways. But certainly something to be noted from a safety standpoint. Trustee Kelly. Again, is it the pleasure of the board for a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, please.
I recommend that the Board of Trustees approves revisions to the Gerlach Schools calendar for the 2017, 2018, and 2018-2019 school years.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposition? Okay, the motion carries. Let the record show it is unanimous. Katie, thank you for that. I'm sure they'll be
Thank you so
excited that
much.
you got that done.
We did, and I will invite you to visit Gerlach as well next year.
All right,
They
I'm
love
sure you
company.
will. All right, agenda item 6.06. This is on the approval and acquisition of 31.84 acres in the Kylie Ranch area. Kylie Ranch North Development of Spanish Springs, and before us is Mike Bolster and Joe Gabica. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, President Taylor, members of the board, and Superintendent Davis. For the record, Joe Gabica, Interim Chief Facilities Officer, and with me is Mike Boster, one of our school planners that deals with land and easements and all sorts of entitlement stuff. He deals with planning departments and couldn't survive without him, frankly. So anyway, Mike's up here because he's been dealing with this situation dating back to about 2008. As this board is aware, we're in the process of design of 2 middle schools at this time, one for Northern Sun Valley and one for the Spanish Springs area. You've approved the allocation plans. We've got architects going, and we're on our way. Those schools are specifically to relieve overcrowding in those areas at both middle school and elementary school level. And the reason that they relieve overcrowding at elementary is because we're moving the 6th grades from the elementary school, so that frees up room in the elementary schools as well. As I said, Mike has been working on this since going back to about 2008 to the developers prior to the current developers. We've had probably over a dozen meetings with these people over the years to discuss with them set-asides for schools within the development. In 2014, we got word from the city of Sparks that there were development plans for up to about 4,400 units out there. We huddled, worked with our demographer to figure out how many kids that might be, and at that time requested the city of Sparks set aside of a 28-acre site for a middle school and an elementary school. We believe that that number of properties would produce enough kids to fill those schools. So we have discussed with these developers about donating the site to us, but they have opted to go with the stipulations of NRS, which is where they do a set aside for us, and then we have to purchase that for appraised value. I need to tell you, they've been incredibly cooperative. The sites for the set-asides have moved all over their development. If you go back to 2008, there were 2 elementary school sites, one at the bottom and one at the top. And then for a while, we didn't think we would need those numbers, so we kind of set one set-aside aside. And then we got back together and said, no, we need an elementary school and a middle school, and we need it right in the center of your development. So they've been very accommodating. They have already spent millions of dollars of infrastructure out there for roads on the what will be in front on the south side of the property we're proposing to purchase, as well as road on the west side of the property, and they're in the process of beginning the road on the east side of the property. That not only includes the full roadway improvements, but the infrastructure in terms of utilities and those kinds of things. And they also plan a linear park on the west side of the 31-acre parcel. So they're doing an awful lot of work on their side as well that is coming at no cost to the school district. 2 appraisals were done, one by us and one by the developer, and then through a series of negotiations, we agreed upon an amount. Straight up, our appraisal was less than theirs. Okay, so we had to negotiate. We kind of negotiated to the middle. Okay, but we negotiated and agreed upon an amount of $255,287 per acre. Frankly, folks, land costs are going up. Okay. We also negotiated the final parcel amount down from 33.1 acres to 31.84 acres. So that equates to a total sale amount of $8,128,340. And this is property that will accommodate our planned middle school as well as a future elementary school. So it's a twofer. Okay, we're getting properties for 2 schools eventually, although the elementary school will be a future school site. Reason we're before you now is that our construction schedule is such that we need to break ground on the grading either late fall or early winter. There is a process we need to complete this sale and go through the closing process and the recordation process and all those things, and we need to get that done in the next 90 days or so in order to stay on our schedule. So with all that, we're recommending proceeding with the acquisition in the amount I already stated, as well as your approval for the closing costs, which our half is estimated to be $21,000 for the purchase of 31.84 acres in the Kiley Ranch area of Spanish Springs. With that, Mike and I would entertain any questions.
Any questions at all for the gentleman? Yes, Vice President Holland?
Thank you, President Taylor. Do we have any sense of what the value of the investments, the infrastructure investments that they're making?
We don't, but I would tell you that we looked into actually improving a street on the north side of our property, of the property. We've come up with a design where we don't need that street, but in working with our architect, civil engineer, and CMAR contractors, the total cost of that street was going to be in excess of $2 million. They've built streets now all on 3 sides of us. So it's a sizable investment that they put in that we're benefiting from.
Great.
But no, I don't have that actual value.
Okay, but just for the public record, it is a sizable investment, and it does reduce our future costs of developing that site, and it gives us a site that covers a middle school and an elementary school. So
that's certainly true, Trustee Hall. We get into any number of different kinds of combinations when we buy these sites. Sometimes they'll donate them to us, but we have to put in the street improvements or the utilities or the half-street improvements and all those kinds of things that sometimes cost every bit as much as if we just purchased the land. So simply because we're having to purchase this land does not mean that this is not a good deal. It is a good deal for the district because, again, they've done all of these infrastructure improvements basically ahead of us. And we can land with our feet running. We've got sewer, we've got water, we've got power, we've got things we can hook into very quickly to get this construction going. So,
Thank you,
yeah.
Joe.
It sounds as though the whole process has been really positive.
It has. It's been very collegial. They've been a great developer to work with, as I said, dating back to their predecessors, going back as far as 2008.
Thank you, Joe. Trustee Mayor?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion. If
Please.
I move that we go into, what do they call it? Acquisition of this property out in Spanish Springs Valley for the development of a middle school and an elementary school.
Okay, is that specific enough? Legal?
Well, I would prefer to have the dollar.
Turn your mic on. You mind grabbing that off your sheet there so we have the dollar
Yeah,
amount
I would just
included in
prefer
that-
to have it a
included in
little
that
more
motion?
detail.
Trustee Mayor?
Sorry, Trustee Mayor.
Trustee Raymond's going to help you. Trustee Raymond's going to help you.
Acquisition of 31.84 acres in Kiley Ranch North for the approximate amount of $8,128,340, plus half the closing costs of approximately $21,000, using the district's land acquisition account for use as a future site.
Thank you so much. You'll have that motion. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? All right, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's exciting. We're building schools. Okay, next agenda item 6.07. This is approval as required of the mandatory United States Department of Agriculture school meal lunch price increases for the 17-18 school year as follows, and the numbers are here. We'll have our presentation here before us. Mr. Pete Etchert, our COO, is before us, as well as Tracy and Mike from Nutrition Services. Welcome again. We see you often. As it turns out, Pete, we turn it over to you, sir.
Great. Pete Etchart, Chief Operating Officer. So I am joined by Tracy Markham, our Nutrition Services Director, and Mike Supple, our Nutrition Services Assistant Director. So being one of over 100,000 school food authorities administered by the United States Department of Agriculture comes with numerous requirements. And one of those requirements is that we, along with all of the school food authorities, are required to periodically adjust our meal prices to keep pace with the federal reimbursement rate. So there's a spreadsheet formula that determines a district's weighted average lunch price, and basically, without getting into all the details of it, the proposed meal price increase of 10 cents this year for paid lunches for this coming school year is the minimum price increase the district can implement to meet federal regulations. So the elementary school price would go from $2.60 to $2.70, and the secondary schools, middle schools, and high schools would go from $2.85 to $2.95. So this increase, if approved by the board, will be shown on our website, and we will be included in the meal charge policy letter that will be sent to all parents this summer. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
What we see before us, I just think it's important to note that this is a mandatory required increase of 10 cents per meal, which is the minimum number that we can increase. So it isn't as though we could not do it and remain in compliance with FDA regulations. Yes, Trustee Mayor?
Do most students have tickets so they don't have to keep all the loose change?
We don't actually give tickets, but when they come through the point of sale and put their number in, any money that's on account is there. So they can use, or they can give us cash, whichever they'd like. And we can give them change as well.
Because I know before when it was like 20 cents, and so they'd lose a nickel or they'd lose the quarter on change, and so they made it so it was an even quarter so that they wouldn't lose all that. But now they don't do that. They don't come in and carry a change and then.
We do have some people that pay with cash. The majority of people pay online now, so the money's in the account. There's a lot of times there's not a whole lot of money transfer. As the students get older, there's more of that than at the elementary level. And high school students are usually able to take care of their money and keep that under control.
Okay.
2017, Trustee Mayers, 2017.
When I was a kid, they used to bring Coke bottles.
My point exactly. I will entertain a motion, though, however, if that is the pleasure of the board.
I'll move to approve the Board of Trustees approves the elementary student lunch price increase from $2.60 to $2.70, and the secondary student lunch price increase from $2.85 to $2.95 effective for the 2017-18 school year.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I may vote no because I took abuse from the chair.
We'll make sure the record is noted in that way, noted accordingly. Okay, we have a motion on the floor that we approve the mandatory lunch price increases as stated by Trustee Simon Holland. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposition? The motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. Trustee Mayor, thank you for not punishing us for the change, exactly, for the change. And, thank you, Mike and Tracy. And I know you're still on. I think you're still up, Tracy. Okay, agenda item 6.08, and this is our presentation on the possible approval of the renewal of our consulting contract with Airmark. And I'll just go ahead and let you continue the floor, Mr. Etcher.
Thank you very much. Pete Etchart, Chief Operating Officer again, for the record. This agenda item brings to you the second Nutrition Services Consulting Management renewal with Airmark Education Services since we went out for proposals for the 2015-16 school year. By USDA requirement, food service management contracts are limited to one-year contracts with terms for 4 one-year renewals. Again, this is the second renewal. So I am joined today by Tracy Markham, our Nutrition Services Director, and also an Airmark employee, and Andrea Sullivan, our Director of Procurement. So Tracy is going to provide you the information of what I believe is a strong partnership between Washoe County School District and Airmark Education Services. And then Andrea will provide details on the contract renewal and the proposed fiscal year 18 budget. And with that, I'll turn this over to Tracy.
Thank you very much. Before I get started, I would like to introduce you real quick to someone else who's here from Airmark, and that is Jennifer Marr. She's the Regional Vice President for K-12 in the West Region, so she is here just to support and answer any questions as well if you have any from her.
Well, Ms. Marr, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I'm sure you flew in for this. We appreciate it.
All right, so we'll skip past this agenda and get down to business. We are a partnership, Airmark and WCSD. We make sure that we follow our statement of nutrition services utilizing exceptional customer service to provide access to nutritious, appealing, high-quality meals to every student in a healthy, safe environment while maintaining fiscal responsibility. As you all know, and we've discussed many times recently, nutrition services is self-supporting, and Airmark does guarantee that it will continue to be like that. Over 45,000 meals are served daily to students, anywhere from 45 to 50,000. We operate in 97 schools. 30,000 meals a day approximately are prepared in our central kitchen, and over 7 million meals have been served year to date for 2016-17. And that was even despite the days that we had so many bad weather closures and delayed starts. Washoe County School District and Airmark in conjunction do community outreach. We partner with the food bank not only in the meals that we vend to them, but summer feeding kickoff and other programs throughout the year. We also do food drives during the holidays where Airmark and Nutrition Services employees come together to help the community. We do many student health fairs, and ACE, or Foxy as Mr. Mayor may know, shows up at events to outreach in the community as well as on campuses. We have the next page where you have Asa Fox, and we also go out to the annual Run for Education and support that every year. And again, that's Aramark and Nutrition Services employees doing this in conjunction with one another. So we have some statistics on the participation. So Aramark took the contract here at WCSD beginning in 2010, and so we kind of went back to that time frame to see where we've come so far. Breakfast has increased over 1,053,000 meals since 2010, and that is in 1 year increase. Lunch has increased 78,000 meals a year since 2010. We have served 2,688,945 breakfast meals last year and 4,518,395 lunch. So participation is good, and we're always looking for ways to increase the participation. Program enhancements. The food truck rolled out, as everyone knows, because we came here and did a little special thing for you. We added breakfast service halfway through this year to try to increase the breakfast participation, and have done that. Cafe updates are in full swing, and we're trying to get in line with everyone else that's doing different improvements to the school, so have to kind of squeeze in there, but we are doing cafeteria refresh, and we're focusing on middle and high schools right now. So this shows some of our branding. The Cool Cafe is something that the Cool Caf we've had installed at elementary. We're refreshing that. We are putting our new brand in, which is the Tines in middle school, and then we're going to go to station branding for different menu options in the high schools. Our barbecue grills are here, and after lengthy discussions and operating procedures with the health department, we have finally got approval to get those rolled out. So we will be going to 2 different schools every single day. We'll give it about 2 weeks after school starts to get everything kind of settled in. As long as the weather permits, we'll be at 2 different schools every day, and we'll be serving reimbursable meals off the grill, just like we do out of the truck. So that way, that's accessible to free and reduced students, the same as it is to paid students. Everybody gets the same exact meal. Yeah, and then we have just a little thing on ACE again, our elementary school mascot. Shows up for National School Breakfast and Lunch Week, and the kids get really excited. The cafeteria monitors, not so much, but the kids really, really love it. It's pretty great. We did a lot of extra surveys and feedback from students and community this year. So we have what we call Voice of the Consumer in the food truck, and we would pass out little pamphlets, and they could just scan that and take an immediate survey that gave us feedback on how they felt about the service, the food, and all of the experience that went on. So the overall satisfaction rating was 70%. Of course, always we're looking for 100% of everything, but we were quite pleased at 70% with the new rollout of the truck. And our friendliness rating was a 100%. So we were really, really excited about that. The kids were excited, and the experience was a really positive thing. We did a student viewpoint survey, which we do every year. 1,613 responses, which is 685 more than the previous year. We really, our marketing manager, Alexia Adami, who works for Aramark, went out and really made a push, got with some of the business classes and the marketing classes to make sure that we got that feedback. There were 16 schools enrolled in the survey, and we have all those results, and we'll compile them, and then we'll be sending that information to you that says exactly what the students are looking for. And as we develop menus for next year, we'll use that in consideration to give the students what they've asked for.
Okay. I think the important thing that we want to get across tonight is it is a partnership. This fund sees $25 million in revenue. So this isn't a place where we say, here you won the contract, now go off and do it, and then sink or swim without us. So one of the things that we've learned over the years, they've been here for a long time now, is we hold what we call monthly financial and operational meetings. And in those meetings, Tracy's there, I'm there, our COO is there, our chief financial officer is there, our budget director is there, our assistant director of nutrition is there. And the idea is to talk about everything. We look at the monthly financial statements. We see where maybe they're going off track from last year or under their predictions, so that we can talk about what could be causing the problems, and we can brainstorm resolutions to those issues. And also to be aware of anything that might have been affecting the fund balance each month, instead of being sort of surprised at the end of the year when revenues or profits may not be what we expected them to be. So in these meetings, we will talk about, for example, the snow days and the impacts that the snow days have had on the fund. Or, we've talked about food waste and how do we minimize that. So it's everything financial and operational, and really kind of work in partnership. And it wasn't always like that. And before Aramark came, that didn't happen. And when Aramark first came, it didn't happen. But we've seen a lot of a positive movement by having these meetings and really talking about any issues on the horizon. And then quarterly, we have corporate Aramark staff attend these meetings as well, because they oversee other school districts, and they've likely encountered many of the issues or challenges that we are maybe encountering at the time, and can offer some solutions that they've seen in other districts. So it's definitely a partnership together, and we really work to make the program as successful as possible, because what we really want to do is feed as many kids as we can. In this new contract renewal, they are guaranteeing a surplus or a profit to the fund of $277,499. So the idea is, at the end of the year, if they don't meet that guarantee return to the fund, then they have to pay us the difference. That is based, however, on some assumptions. And that is, number one, there's several, but the big ones are that the enrollment is at least the same as it was last year. So in a decreasing enrollment, you'd see decreasing sales. It's also based upon an assumption that there will be a 2% increase in the federal reimbursement rate, which is typically, we see at least that every year. It's also based on the current free and reduced rates staying the same, percentages staying the same, because obviously that has a big impact on the federal reimbursements that we get inside that fund. And then the big one for us in this past year has been service days. There's 180 school days in a year. For the most part, in elementary schools, they expect to serve lunch every single day of those. And so when we have a snow event, we sell no meals, and we, per contract, pay the labor. And sometimes those employees have to make up those days, but it's after school's over, so we're still not serving meals. So those are the types of things, if that happens, the guarantee might be missed, but we can't hold that against them, because they don't get to predict the weather, and they don't get to decide whether school's canceled or not. So there are assumptions built into that, so we have to every month monitor what we call exceptions. And that's if one of these assumptions doesn't hit, then there could be an exception to the guarantee. And so we talk about that every month, so we're all on board with what those are. Here's a brief snapshot of the overall proposed budget. It just shows you how we get to the $277,000 guarantee. But it is a $25 million revenue fund. And once we buy all the food and pay all of the salaries and pay Aramark, that's what it brings us to, is a return of $277,499. Here's what their fees look like by meal. And so they have two different kinds of fees, an administrative fee and a management fee, which is what all of these companies have. And this RFP, so since 2015, they have a new fee structure that's a little bit different than the one we had for the first 5 years. During the first 5 years, it was a flat 5 cents per meal. Between those two fees, it added up to 5 cents per meal that we paid. Now we have this tiered fee, and it looks maybe a little counterintuitive, because the more meals we sell, the higher the price goes. But the reason for that is we do want to give them some incentive to sell more meals, because the more meals they sell, the more revenue to the fund, and then the profit to the fund increases, and we use that to reinvest back into the nutrition services program. So the first 7 million meals are one price, and then incrementally it goes up after that. But when you look at the amount of meals that they're estimating to sell, 8,563,000, the fee turns out to be about 0.039, so 3.9 cents per meal, versus the previous years where we paid 5 cents a meal. So I think we've all been quite pleased with the way this structure has worked so far. So that's their fees, and that's the guarantee, and it's been a great partnership. We haven't always agreed on everything, but we've always worked very well together, and staff would like to recommend that we renew with Airmark for another year. Take any questions.
Any questions or comments? I want to thank you for your continued work. I mean, the growth in the program is really exciting to see. I know 70% is, I think that's pretty good for school lunch, quite frankly. Certainly we all want it to be higher, but I know you've worked very hard to get there, and the new things, the grills, the food trucks, the stations in high schools, I mean, just those things to incentivize kids to get more, each one of those little things, I think, helps kids get a little bit more excited about having food. And if kids don't eat, they can't learn. And so ultimately, that's what it's all about, is giving them a nutritious meal so that they can learn. So I just want to, I think, just speak for all of us and just thank you for your work and for your efforts and the growth in the program. So exciting things.
Thank you very much. I've really loved being here. Airmark loves being here.
We do have a couple of questions. Trustees Kelly?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that, certainly we want more meals. We want more kids enjoying more meals, but I just want to make sure that there won't be any, degrading of the quality of meal. If you add more cookies, more kids will want to have the meals, but I want to keep it, fruits and vegetables and that kind of stuff. So.
Right, absolutely. We're always looking to increase the quality of the meals. Some of the things that we've done since we've been here is if you have a ground beef product, that is now raw ground beef that is cooked by us, so that there's nothing added to that. Constantly looking to increase the quality and the acceptability, so you'll never have to worry about that.
Good question. Want it to be good stuff. You bet. Trustee Feimster?
Yes, this is great stuff. I could just see students just racing to lunch, and that's important, instead of racing off campus, which is a problem. So this is really wonderful. I was just wondering, would you guys know ahead of time where that little barbecue grill is going to be? And that way you guys can let the trustees know, and maybe we could go out and just kind of boost it and just kind of, mingle with the kids and have lunch with them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We're actually working on that rotation now.
Okay.
And some of the things we have to do before we put that rotation together is not only see where we can place the grill, but make sure the principal's on board with us being there, what time. So when we get that rolled out, we will absolutely send that schedule out to everyone, along with the food truck schedule, because there has to be a schedule every day. We know way in advance. So sure, we'll be glad to send that to you. Mm-hmm.
Chief Legal just said, please make sure he gets that rotation. He'd like to make sure
I would not leave legal out.
We'll make sure there are no open meeting law violations surrounding the grill. God, that's really important. You're just selfless in your service. Trustee Mayor?
Well, it'd be nice if go to some of the schools that have a park next door, and the kids could sit on the grass and have lunch and stuff like that.
As long as I get permission from the principal, I am on board with that.
Quite a few in Sparks have a park next door to them, so.
Fantastic. Other questions, comments? If not, I will entertain the motion if that's the pleasure of the board.
I will make the motion that the Board of Trustees approves renewal number 2 of request for proposal number 15-002 for consulting and management services for food service program for a period of 1 year beginning July 1st, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018, in the estimated amount of $336,432 to Airmark Education Services.
Thank you so much, Vice President Holland. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposition? All right, the motion's carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. Thank you. We're excited. Looking forward to the schedule.
Thank
We
you
can go
very
out
much.
and flip some burgers or twirl some dogs or whatever's going on out there. God bless you. Okay, agenda item 6.09. Discussion and possible action on the superintendent evaluation process. This part, as you may recall, colleagues, is pertaining to the consultant/facilitator to conduct this evaluation. We have those proposals, and before us is our Chief HR Officer, Dawn Huckabee. Ms. Huckabee, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and members of the board. Dawn Huckabee, Chief Human Resources here. And I am here to take you through the process for the superintendent's evaluation and also to provide you some information on the 4 facilitators who have put in proposals to do this work for the 16-17 evaluation of Superintendent Davis. What I'd like to do is go through the process which you had as a part of your board packet. It is the same process as was outlined for the 15-16 superintendent evaluation, and that is that we would, the scope of work for what these facilitators would be conducting this year is to conduct structured interviews individually with each of the board members. That would be a 60 to 90-minute interview with each trustee. Then the facilitator would work with each board member to complete the individual evaluation forms, which is the rubric that was discussed in the past 2 board meetings. The facilitator would compile the ratings and the feedback received from each board member. Also then would review the superintendent's self-evaluation and conduct a structured interview with the superintendent. Also to be included in the scope of work is to provide surveys out for stakeholder feedback. It is the survey tool that is included in your board packet, and I will go through that with you as well. And the surveys would go out to a variety of stakeholders, which may include, which is listed in your board packet, school district principals, a sample of teachers, leadership team, and representative of community groups. So we listed some of those community groups. I also talked with our communications team, and they put some input into other community stakeholder groups that weren't available in the 15-16 evaluation. And those would be, for example, the African American clergy of Northern Nevada, the Multi-Faith Community Group, which is a group of multi-faith leaders that Superintendent Davis meets with on a regular basis. And for our Native American populations, the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, Pyramid Lake Tribe, and Nevada Urban Indians, which is a nonprofit group locally here.
If I may add, correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Kelly, I believe you added that you wanted students to be included in that the last time.
Correct.
You remember that? So just wanted to make sure that wasn't lost in.
That's a great point, and based on that feedback, we did add students in, and we would like to have the Student Advisory Board be a part of that because they did also have interactions with Superintendent Davis throughout this year. And then also, we want to make sure that we're including parent advisory panels, such as our special ed advisory panel and gifted and talented advisory panel to get input from those stakeholders as well. I'd like to also go over the survey instrument. Included in your packet was the survey instrument that we had used for the 15-16 superintendent evaluation. And if you're able to look at that document, you'll see that there's a number of questions that's being asked that are all aligned to the components in the superintendent's rubric. And just to name those off for you in case you can't pull that document up, they are questions regarding strategic district leadership, as well as instructional leadership, systemic leadership, board relationships and professional ethics, and organizational leadership. And in that survey instrument, again, this is last year's survey instrument, you'll see check marks or X's where those questions align to each of those areas. So aligned to the rubric. So a part of the facilitation process will be sending out the surveys to our stakeholder groups, compiling all of that information back and being able to provide that as a part of the superintendent's evaluation of what the results of those surveys showed from stakeholders. Do any of the board members have any questions regarding the survey and the actual survey instrument? You can see all the questions are outlined there.
Trustee Holland?
If I might, our rubric probably wouldn't be quite familiar to a lot of people who would be filling the survey out. Did you find last year that people had any difficulty completing the survey?
We didn't hear anything around people having difficulty with it. I would say we would want to try to see if we can get more responses back from the survey this year.
What was the?
Oh, I'd have to look it up, but I could get that.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, was it 30%?
I would ask, because we do have one of the facilitators is the facilitator who had handled that last year, and they might be able to answer that for us.
Just a ballpark.
Public impact is here. Maybe if you want to answer.
I do remember that based up the categories, like some categories did better than others. Like I think I do, so I'm glad you asked that because it made me think about it. I think there were some categories that didn't fare very well at all and others that, so I don't know if there's an overall number that you may have, but I do know the categories didn't all perform the same and some were quite low.
So I can.
I'm sorry, give us your name and organization.
Nita Lasapunkel. I'm a senior consultant with Public Impact. So the survey response rate was actually very, very low. I want to say it was below 20%. I can pull up the exact number if you'd like, but we did have a very condensed survey window due to the election with the passage of the bond and then the Thanksgiving holiday. So there wasn't I want to say it was about 12 days is about how long the survey was actually open, and I think that contributed to the low response rate as well.
One of the things that I think we do want to look to is how do we increase that?
Right.
Right. So okay.
Exactly.
Thank you, Nina.
So then the facilitator will gather up all the information, and I'd like to take you through each of those proposals and how they say that they will provide the information then back to the trustees if there's no questions on the actual instrument or the groups that we will be soliciting feedback from. Okay. All right, so also in your packet, you have the proposals from the 4 facilitators and companies, and I'd like to go through each of those so that you can see what each of them have proposed. The first one, and I'm not sure how it is in your packets.
I'm sorry, Don, there's a question. Yes, Trustee Holland?
Before we go into that, I just wanted, when you did some more research for us, Don, about what other districts were doing, and other local governments here in the region, it sounded like most don't use a consultant. So I just wondered if you could give us a little sort of overview about why our district should use a facilitator when other districts and local governments locally aren't, if you would.
Yes, we did do some research to see what City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County had done. City of Reno, City of Sparks, much smaller, so that was handled all internally. They did surveys, and then it was actually handled by the county manager and the city councils. They actually did all of that work themselves. We in the district traditionally have gone to an outside consultant, being that it wouldn't be staff being involved with the evaluation of the superintendent. And so we have done that for many years. We've done that in a transparent and because it must be done in a public meeting, but we've done it with the support of a facilitator. Yep, it's a little bit awkward for staff to be involved in the evaluation of the superintendent when the superintendent is your boss. And so we've developed the process the scope of work that you see, but we've actually had a facilitator do the actual compilations.
I just think that's good to have on the record when people ask later, well, why do you do it and why do you spend money on that when others don't? So thank you.
Agreed. So if we weren't, then staff would be meeting with the board and getting feedback from the board, and would the board be able to be very open and frank about that, knowing that staff reports to the superintendent and all of those kind of conflicts. So that's why we have always had a facilitator.
Trustee Feimster?
Is the facilitator a local person?
I'd have to go back in history to see what's happened in the past, but for as long as I have been here, it's been a local person.
Okay, because I think that's important. Again, I'm looking at, trying to bring in someone and having to pay for hotel and their stay and feed them and all of that. And I think we have people here that can do it. That's my biggest concern.
All four of these facilitators are local too.
Super.
Thank you, Trustee Feimster. Trustee Mayor?
Yes, I think a lot of it changed when it was required that evaluation be done in public. I think a lot of people in city government and school district felt that it'd be better to have somebody from outside rather than do it in public with people on the staff of the person that you're evaluating. And so they just would feel more comfortable going with consultants. But that's probably 50-50 as to those who want to do it with consultants and those without.
I think for the school district, as we're all about transparency and the process, when you have an external person, then there's really no stake one way or the other. They are here to report, and that's what they'll do, is report.
Thank you. Ms. Huckabee, please continue.
So I'd like to take you through the four proposals. The first proposal that I have in front of me is from Cindy Davis. Cindy Davis is with Strategic HR Partners, and she has also here, we have 3 of our 4 facilitators who have representatives here. The 4th one is available by phone, so if you do have questions for the facilitators, they are available for you to ask them questions about their proposal.
Will you identify who's here just as you go along?
Yes, I would be happy
If you wouldn't
to.
mind.
So Cindy Davis is here from Strategic HR Partners.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, for being here, and thank you for submitting your proposal.
So Strategic HR Partners has provided a proposal. First, they go into their executive summary that gives you a little bit of information on their background in the area of human resources. Very organized document with a table of contents. They go into the client service plan, which is the project plan for the superintendent's evaluation. And in there, they talk about how they would like to have a primary contact from the district if they were to be awarded this ability to take this process forward for the superintendent's evaluations. They do outline a timeline, and in that timeline, they've outlined what was in the scope of work, because we did provide this scope of work to each of the 4 facilitators in order for them to create their proposal. And they developed a timeline where they would facilitate the surveys, July 17th through August 11th, then conduct the superintendent interview next after the surveys, compile the survey and interview results, and then meet with Board of Trustees. And I say that because in each of the proposals, they do it a little bit differently. So some do the superintendent's interview after board and all of that. But I think that they would be open if the board wanted that done in a specific way. I think each of these 4 facilitators could adjust their timelines based on what the board proposes. They have then the Board of Trustees interview, And then they would compile their information to submit to the Board of Trustees at the September 26th board meeting. We have the September 26th board meeting as the last available date because per Superintendent Davis's contract, she would have her evaluation before October 1st. Then we have a little bit of background history if you are able to read that on Cindy and her team and what they are able to do based on their experience. The second proposal is submitted by Sawyer Education Consulting and On Strategy. With us, we have, Lynn is not able to be with us this afternoon, but we have Erica Olson from On Strategy. There's Erica there. So if you
Welcome, Ms. Olson. Thank you for being here.
They outlined basically what is in the scope of work, the interviews, 60 to 90 minutes, then the superintendent interview, the stakeholder survey, and how they would compile those results. On Strategy, working with Sawyer Consulting, On Strategy would be involved in really the compilation of that data and analysis of the data. They also have a timeline where they develop the survey tool, launch it, do the Board of Trustee interviews, the superintendent interview, the stakeholder interviews if the board chooses, because there is an option for additional interviews if the board so chooses, with September 26th being when they would present that to the Board of Trustees. They also outline their experience. I should go back and say what the costs were for each of these so that it is on record. For Strategic Partners, LLC, the cost for that is $25,000. In Sawyer Consulting with On Strategy, their costs are, let me see here, if they have $16,000 for those. Next, I have Public Impact. Public Impact had done the superintendent's evaluation last year, submitted a proposal again this year. They have a few additional things that they had in there. So if you look at the scope of work, they will be refreshing the survey tool and doing the outreach to the groups that we've determined. They would do the initial interviews with the Board of Trustees, including the student representative to the board, conduct the structured interview with the superintendent, going over the self-evaluation, conducting, they have in here under C, conducting 60-minute structured interviews with leadership team members. So that is different than other proposals. And then also ability to conduct additional interviews if requested by the Board of Trustees, synthesize and follow up with the information and create a summary of findings in a report. And they also include how they introduced the board's presentation of the superintendent's evaluation and the presentation of the evaluation itself conducted by the Board of Trustees, that you would be going over the evaluation. It outlines Board of Trustees commitments there and what documents we would be providing at the district level, and the public impact commitments and the timeline. There's a slightly different. They have it coming to the Board of Trustees on September 12th, the previous meeting. And their fees are outlined at $17,000 for their work. Then the last proposal is from Human Resources Connection. Karen Jensen is the facilitator. She's not able to be with us. If we have questions for her, though, she can be available by phone, so I have her cell number if we need to contact her. She's en route, so on the road. In the HRC facilitation agreement, they outline the deliverables that would be reviewing the strategic plan, conducting the interview with the Board of Trustees, also any other possible interviews if Board of Trustees decide that we would like others, review the superintendent's self-evaluation, do the superintendent's interview, compile all of the interview findings, distribute the survey to our stakeholder groups, summarize from the collected data, and provide the findings to the Board of Trustees. HRC outlines what the specific deliverables will be from the school district, providing the strategic plan, evaluation rubric, schedule the interviews for the Board of Trustees and the superintendent, provide the survey to be distributed, the list of contacts, and their cost and payment is a little bit different. $150 an hour, not to exceed 50 hours without prior approval, a one-time administrative client fee of $99, and a deposit of $3,750 collected prior to the work beginning. So you see we've got some differences, but all within the scope of work that we provided to each of the 4 facilitators. As I said, all 4 of these facilitative groups are local here, and I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of look at those, but I'm happy to answer any questions, or as I said, we do have the facilitators here if you have questions for them.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. Let's bring this to the board for questions, discussion, anything that anybody may have. I see no public comment. JJ, I see you doing your head like this. Okay, we'll go here. Vice President Simon Holland.
Thank you, President Taylor. Just to kind of kick it off, just to share some of the things that that I looked for in looking at the proposals. For me, this is an HR function. We want to see best practices in an HR function, and not everybody, has that expertise in the world. And so one of the things I'm really looking for is the HR qualifications and certifications to implement the best practices kinds of things that we're looking for. Also evidence of comparable client projects. The same kind of projects, and it is unusual. This is a pretty specialized area of work, and it's great that we had 4 people submit proposals. But those were 2 of the things that I'm looking for: the expertise in HR functions, certifications, qualifications, and then the comparable client projects. So I just thought I'd kick it off with that.
Thank you, Trustee Holland. Other comments, questions from the board? Yes, Trustee Kelly?
Yeah, I think to piggyback on Trustee Simon Holland, I was looking for those same things as well. And then 2 other things that I was looking at was cost. I'm always mindful of getting the best work possible for the lowest cost possible. And then I was also looking for people that had experience doing education, working with school districts, working with colleges, just kind of working with the education field. And so I thought those were 2 things that were kind of important to me.
Thank you, Trustee Kelly. Other comments, consideration? I know we've had an opportunity to review all of these. I want to concur that I'm glad we have 4 to kind of consider and choose from. I will add this. My comments on this is that I think all those are really, really noteworthy. Certainly cost, certainly those who've done something like this, because it isn't that common as it turns out. And certainly we want to have the best evaluation that we can of this in terms of where we are, and then most importantly, of course, where we're going, and working with our superintendent. I did like that the leadership team interviews were included with public impact. That was a team that we used last year, and learned a lot from that, and certainly some things we would do the same, certainly some things I think we would do differently. I did like that added component to give leadership team members an individual opportunity to, to weigh in confidentially on their ideas, their suggestions, their comments, and their feedback on the superintendent. Kind of gives you a 360 eval kind of a feel, and I like that. I think a lot can be learned when that's done in an appropriate manner. Yes, Trustee Holland.
I have a bit different take on the extensive interviews, because for me, the more that the evaluation relies upon a third person interpreting my words through an interview versus completing a standardized and consistent survey that the leadership team would be involved in and all the other people would be involved in. For me, that makes it a more consistent practice. I think it's great to have that feedback, and I think sometimes we risk when we have a huge number of interviews. Someone has to synthesize all of that, so they're reducing what I've said or what someone else has said, and we get farther and farther away from a standardized response to a standardized format. Yeah, okay. Just different way of looking at it.
Thanks, Trustee Holland. Other feedback, comment, my colleagues.
Excuse me.
Yes, Trustee Feemster?
So are we trying to make a decision tonight on which group?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will. One of the things that's noteworthy, again, and I think Ms. Huckabee shared this, contractually, the evaluation is done by October. And so we want to be able to give whomever it is that we bring in the time this summer to do a more thorough time, and not being in the midst of everything else that we were in the midst of last year, to certainly reach out and get as much feedback so we can get more participation than we had last year. And time is always a part of that, especially in the summertime when people are distracted. So the more that we can follow up and get with people and encourage them to be a part of the media, really I think it helped us last year, and I know communications will be involved in that, yes, in encouraging people to do the surveys that are out there, and so on. So our whole goal, Trustee Feemster, is to make a decision on which of the 4 of these proposals we'd like to go with tonight so that work can begin.
Can we invite the proposers to give us a 3-minute pitch or
sure
whatever?
Certainly we can do that. Why don't we do that, I guess, in the same order that you...
If they would like to.
If they would like to. If not, you can say your proposal speaks for itself, and it does, and that's okay. Now that we've put all of you on the spot for a 3-minute elevator pitch, but, just a short time, if you'd like to just share to help us, because as you can see, we're giving this really, really good consideration. This is an important part for us. So we'd like to invite you to do so if you'd like to.
So I'd like to invite Cindy Davis.
Okay.
From Strategic HR Partners.
Strategic HR Partners. Welcome, Ms. Davis. Thank you for letting us put you on the spot.
Yeah, thank you. Let me see about turning this on.
Okay, we can.
There we go.
JJ will help you. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, well, good afternoon. A little bit about myself. I have 31 years of experience in human resources. I have a Fortune 500 background. I come out of nonprofit. Some of the things that I have done that may be different than the other individuals that are here is I facilitated the executive director search for the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. That's not a small task when you have 30 judges on the board. I'm just saying. And they were all over the nation, and we went through the entire process. It was very collaborative. I've also been involved with team-based environments. I was telling Gabriella, I sat here probably 25 years ago when I was with Ralston Prina speaking to your teachers about how do I get students from you that we'll pay about $80,000. And I had your teachers with their mouths shocked. So I come from a team-based environment. It took me 55 interviews to get my position when I started at Ralston Prina, just to give you an idea. I am very collaborative. Some of the things that I didn't want to put in my proposal, or some of the school districts I've worked with, or some of the county and city offices I've worked with, I'm also a workplace investigator. So I've dealt with up to 4 EEOC complaints. It took me well over 6 months. I like to call them I do field trips and I write novels. So just to give you an idea, my background is very varied. And I think that from the HR perspective and the survey pieces that I've done within the organizations and the time that I've spent in HR could certainly, benefit the organization here. And I also, Gabby is fluent in Spanish, and I believe very strongly that we need to engage our Hispanic community, and I think that we could leverage her in that arena. Didn't know how to put that into my proposal, and we're prepared to do above and beyond to do that outreach into that particular community. If you have any questions for me, I'll take them.
I would just ask this, you mentioned that you've worked with several educational clients and others. Would you mind mentioning a couple? Is that, okay, I know you didn't put that in your proposal.
I'd rather not put it on the record because they were
Okay.
workplace investigations.
Oh, I see. Understandable.
And I'm very sensitive.
No,
to-
as you should be. As you should be. It's okay.
Okay.
It's all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. And if I could have Erica Olson up.
Erica's with,
Sawyer
Sawyer.
Consulting and
On Strategy.
On Strategy.
Welcome, Erica. Thank you for being here and letting us put you on the spot.
No problem. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I'll just keep talking. Erica Olsen for the record. Thanks again for the opportunity, and I'm here on behalf of Lynn, Sawyer, who would be representing us. So kind of to address, and I'll just kind of jump into the differentiating factors that the board has brought up so far. Addressing the HR piece, so the work that Lynn has done is quite extensive in the teacher evaluation processes across all sorts of districts. So you can see, and many of you probably know Lynn, so the expertise and the educational background and the clients that we've worked with collectively and individually are listed in our proposal, so I won't go through that. I will point out that we don't have HR certifications, so that's just worth noting. Bringing to this, though, and the reason that we partnered, and actually Lynn asked to partner with us on this, is the research component is so important to doing to the level and degree that you need to make your evaluation as effective as possible. And so that's one of the things that we thought was so important, is to talk about the research credibility and what it takes to produce valid, credible, reliable research. So, and I won't get into the details of that, but we're really good at that. That's what we have expertise in as On Strategy, and I'll introduce my father, and he's the head of the research team, so he's got the gray hair that knows how to do that work.
We've got a PhD in.
If you would, you want to.
Credibility would be PhD in market research. So he is a statistician. And the last thing just to point out is we are certified facilitators. So one of the things that we did put in our proposal was the notion of facilitating the public process. So obviously the process itself is facilitated, but certainly the way in which the process comes forward to the board meeting, the request was that was facilitated at a higher level as well. So those are some of the differentiating factors. I think the rest of it speaks for itself, so I'll be brief and call it a day unless there's any questions.
Questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. You have one trustee, Mayor?
No, Lynn was.
Would you mind turning your mic on, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Lynn was administrator in this school district.
Yes.
Lynn Sawyer, that's the same person.
Yes, sir, for 30 years. Yep. She's been retired, I'm not sure for how long, but long enough to be working with a lot of districts across the country. Yep. And if I could actually add one thing.
Please.
One thing that might be worth noting is what our cost is. And the assumption that we came into this with was the survey tool is defined. So while there's some research strategies we would employ, the survey tool itself was decided last year, right? That's what we knew coming into the school year. So that is a significant reason why our proposal is what it is. There's quite a bit of hours in the proposal for analysis, back to the credibility piece that I mentioned, but that might explain the price difference. At least that's how we were thinking about it anyways. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, if I could have Nita Losapunko come up from Public Impact.
Welcome, Nita.
Thank you again. For the record, Nita Lassapunkel, Senior Consultant with Public Impact, and thank you Superintendent Davis, President Taylor, and the board for entertaining our proposal. We were very honored last year to be selected to conduct this facilitation, and I think our proposal reflects some of the things that we've learned from the process last year, and some of the suggestions we have to do a little bit differently in order to improve the process. One of the things I also wanted to add that was also different in our proposal was that we don't believe that the evaluation should be a one and done piece, and we wanted to have the opportunity to set you all up to continue to have these conversations about professional growth and coaching and feedback as we go through, because we think that no matter where you are in your career and no matter how superstar you are of a leader, everyone has an area and room for growth, and we want that to be a platform for continuing those conversations throughout the year versus a one-time public meeting. I did not list any of their credentials, so I'm going to give a little bit of background on our firm. So we are a K-12 education consulting firm. We work with school districts, State Department of Ed, the U.S. Department of Ed, charter schools, as well as foundations who are heavily invested in education, including Gates and Schusterman and Jan Zuckerberg. Myself personally, I do have a PHR, SHRM CP, as well as an MBA. I do come originally from a corporate background, working for Fortune 500 as well, but have been in education for the last 7 years, supporting both school districts, charters, and State Department of Ed. And I'm here based locally in Reno, although the rest of my firm is not. But most of the work we do is around facilitating professional development sessions, 360s for leaders, and the professional development is not just for leaders, but also for teachers, principals, as well as support staff, and supporting school districts and rethinking how they structure HR and compensation for all their personnel.
Any questions for Nina? Yes, Trustee Raymond.
So beyond last year's evaluation and facilitation, have you worked with other entities or districts in Nevada or other states that have this open meeting forum for the evaluation?
We have not worked specifically with the evaluation beyond here, but we have facilitated similar processes for different levels of leaders in different organizations.
In the open meeting?
Not in the open meeting, but the same process around getting the surveys and the structured interviews and tabulating and providing a written report and presentation.
Thank you. Dr. Feemster, I see your light on. Are you?
Oh, I didn't turn it on, but I do have
okay.
you know what, I guess it was ominous. Since you worked with us last year, is there something that you could share with us that would be just like helpful to help us make a decision about the continuity of that? Does that, I mean, is there strength in continuity of, from one year to the next? Like maybe some of the characters, or I mean, something that would make us I don't know, have a connection. Is there a connection? I guess that's what I'm looking at, that could help us grow.
Sure. I mean, there's some continuity, but I think about half the board members would be different from this year than last year. But I do think from a process perspective, we helped redo the survey questions and the alignment with the change in the rubric last year. So of course, we're very familiar with how the process went. I think our suggestion for including additional interviews this year comes from some of the learnings we had last year in terms of the quality of the feedback that we were getting through the survey, which was not great, but also recognizing that in the rubric itself, there are dimensions that not only is it important to have the perspective of how the superintendent is managing up, but also the perspective how she's managing down and getting that direct feedback from those who were directly impacted and supervised for her. And I think, specific dimensions around distributive leadership and hiring personnel, we think that's really important to get that full scope and picture. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to make that recommendation. I think, and for those, and I'm just going to be very candid here, but conducting it last year in the time constraints response that we did have, there were certainly some things, hindsight being 2020, where there was not enough time to go back and fact check and make sure that some of the feedback that was provided was within the evaluation time period. And we've included all those things this year in our proposal, which is part of the reason the cost is higher than it was last year. I did previously work here in the district and know many of the folks who would be part of this process. And I do think having some of those relationships can also be helpful.
Thank you, Nita. Any other questions or comments for Nita? Okay, thank you so much.
For Human Resources Connection, I did text
Turn your mic on, please, Dawn. Okay.
So I did text Karen Jensen from Human Resources Connection just to let her know that we would be contacting her for 3 minutes of background and information to the board. And she said, okay, she has 2 bars, so she's crossing her fingers.
Okay. We'll cross ours too.
Yes.
Which one's she?
Human Resources Connection, HRC. And her name is Karen Jensen.
Hi, this is Karen.
Hi, Karen. This is Angie Taylor. I'm president of the Board of Trustees. We're here at our meeting considering all of the proposals, and we thank you for hopefully holding on to 2 bars worth of a signal. And we would just like to just give you an opportunity, as the others have, to just share a little bit of background about your firm, yourself, your proposal. We've said about 2 or 3 minutes, but take the time that you need. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, I didn't get much of that. I think it's because you're on speaker, but I understand. What I understood is you want a little bit of my background.
Yes, a little bit of your background. Please.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very excited to have been able to bid on this. And I have lived in our community for over 20 years. I've been in HR for about 32 years. Other than on my own business, it's the only career path that I've had. And I have been in business for 14 years. And we focus on basically outplacement, HR services, full service. I've done many intakes coming into clients, places of businesses where I've talked to various employees as far as getting a barometer on how they're feeling about their place of work, which would be relevant to what we're doing here with for the superintendent. I've been involved in many performance management systems, including being certified under Leadership for Excellence, which is a program that I went through with IGT to be trained on how to do 360 with our management team there when I was an organizational development trainer for IGT. I have a master's degree in human resources. I'm certified both with STERM and HRCI. I educate people at continuing ed for UNR, and I've been doing that for over 20 years. And I'm currently president of the Northern Nevada Human Resource Association. We have over 500 members. And what else would you like to know? I have an echo going really badly, so if I sound weird, I think it's that I'm hearing everything I'm saying.
Sorry about that echo. Just anything you may want to say just about the proposal that you've submitted. I mean, you've done a good job, but if there's anything else you would like to add, certainly that'd be a great question. Any like clients, your experience working in education, or your experience on like projects would be helpful?
I couldn't really understand you, but I think you said if there's anything I want to add. I guess the only thing that I would add, my interest in this is I'm very involved in our community, and I have two kids in the system, and they've gone to Huntsberger, Pine Middle School, and Galena High School. And as far as my proposal goes, I've had a lot of back and forth with John, just really trying to understand what is needed. And I guess what I would say is that when I meet with people, I have a very open and empathetic, but yet professional personality. So I believe that I would be a very strong professional to pull out the data that is needed for the school district in this project. People feel comfortable speaking with me.
Thank you, Karen. Can we ask about her experience? If you can share with us, Karen, I hope you can understand me. Any experience you may have working with like project or working with any similar projects or working in education would be helpful. Could you make that out, Karen?
Sure. So education and life projects. Well, the life project, I mentioned one, and that is doing 360 performance reviews on managers and directors within IGT. And so this is similar because we're surveying and speaking with numerous people that surround the superintendent. So I see that as a life project, and I have done many intakes which are similar but not exactly geared to this type of project, other than just being able to interview people and draw out information. I haven't, my experience in education is working for continuing ed for the last 20 plus years. And I've had some really big success and draw big numbers there as far as an instructor and just having kids in the system. I can't think of anything more that I've done. I did one legal issues training for a group within the district. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. Seeing no other comments from Karen. Thank you for taking the time to take our call and do an impromptu presentation. We appreciate that, and we appreciate your proposal.
I appreciate your time, and thank you for calling me.
Thank you.
And I hope that we get the work.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board, you have before you 4 proposals for facilitation of the 16-17 superintendent evaluation process. I believe we have 4 very strong, viable facilitators that you've heard from today. So once again, Cindy Davis with Strategic HR Partners, Erica Olson presented for Sawyer Consulting and On Strategy. We also have Public Impact with Nita Lasaponkol and Human Resources Connection, Karen Jensen, for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Huckabee. Yes, Trustee Raymond?
I'm trying to kind of coalesce all this in my head. I came into it from more of this position of looking for the facilitator type proposal, and I think I see the need for the HR component of it too, and so that sort of changed maybe my perception of it a bit. But then I think through the conversations, sitting here, have added even another component of almost this, I guess, marketing in a way of getting those survey numbers. And so I think it's a bigger deal than I probably initially was thinking going into it, that it is more than just collecting the information. It's more than just summarizing the information, and more than just kind of facilitating it at the meeting where it's presented and in the one-on-ones. And so I'm trying to look at the proposals again, looking kind of for that whole well-rounded perspective. And to me, that feels like it is more than one person that can do that. And so I don't know that, there's more that maybe Dawn could share, but how, what role does the district play in supporting this? Or, I mean, I understand there was a time crunch last year, but is HR involved in marketing to get all the surveys back, or is that all just resting on the shoulders of the facilitator, the person we hire?
So it is a team approach. So there are members, not just human resources, communication team, Vanjie, Russell, who works with the facilitators around this process. So it isn't just incumbent on them. We do want the facilitators to do the reaching out and actually distribution of the survey. And I would also say that for each one of these facilitators, they have a team with them. So it's more than just them or just two. As you heard from some, they have others also that will be a part of that. So it isn't that it's just on one or two people. Each of those facilitation groups have teams of people, and there is a district team here too.
And I will add, I see you, Trustee Kelly, I will add that it was important from when the process was put together last year that the information that comes back in does not come into the district, and that's why to maintain the fidelity of it, and that's why the role of that person. I mean, communication certainly was heavily involved in getting the information out, helping to reach out to those groups, but then it was almost like passed off, if you will, to maintain the fidelity of it, so they weren't sending information back into the district.
Correct.
And so that was intentionally done.
Yeah, it is received by the facilitation group and not received by the district.
Again, outreaching certainly began here, but the follow-up and so on, there's some role in that for the facilitators for those firms as well. Trustee Kelly?
Yeah, Don, so you're seeking a recommendation of one group that we would choose. So does that mean that a trustee would make a recommendation? Does there have to be a second? And then does it have to be a majority of the board here? Or can it just be whoever of the four gets the most votes? Like, how does that process work? What are you looking for?
I'm going to defer to legal on that. I think it's like any other vote, but...
Same as any other vote. You have to have a first, a second, be a motion, and a majority.
Okay, does that clear that up for you, Trustee Kelly? Good question. Yes, Trustee Holland?
I was really intrigued by Trustee Raymond's comments because I had the same experience, and I'm so appreciative that everyone gave us some comments because that really helped to illuminate for me. This is a challenge. It's almost like there are three projects within this. We're looking for the quality and the professionalism of the interviews and the analysis. We're looking for good participation in a survey and the quality of the engagement in the survey. And then we're looking for a very unique skill, which is the facilitation of the public presentation of this material, which is very difficult, as we know, and is a very specialized skill. At this point, I will share that I'm leaning towards the Sawyer on strategy proposal and the strategic HR partners proposals. Those are my top two right now, but also willing to hear all the discussion.
Thank you, Trustee Holland. Trustee Feemster?
Let's see, the young lady, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Nita. I just want to go, if you could just go back a little bit more for us and share, if that's okay. Is that okay? Is it okay? I just want her to share a little bit more.
If you have a question, certainly you can ask.
Yeah, because I'm real, because you did the process last year, am I correct? Okay, you did the process last year, and you said you were able to look at your information and make additional changes or suggestions that would bring us better results, or, as a community, and would help the superintendent with the leadership team. Could you talk a little bit more about that? I just want to hear that, because I like consistency, and I'm just wondering if you could just pick up and kind of hit the ground running a little bit more than the other three, which I think they're all great, but I'm just wondering if having a lead might help us out.
Sure, and if I'm going too far back, just let me know. But I think, and I, as part of the proposal from last year was also to give feedback on how the process went this year and what we would suggest for some changes. And I don't know, like, I met with Dawn and gave some of that feedback after the work, so I don't know how much got to all y'all, but I'll kind of talk through some of them. So it took us a while when we first got started to really understand the rubric and go through all the evidence that was presented and how that was all laid out, because it was extensive. It was thousands of pages of evidence. And so now, having at least a head start on understanding, like, what is that? What are we looking for? What's within, the time frame, et cetera, I think that gives us a head start. The rubric itself, and I gave some feedback on that, like when you read it across from the different ratings, it didn't always make sense going across. And so we gave some feedback on ways to consider the wording. So what I mean by that is, like, in the lowest ranking, it says, like, does all of these things or doesn't do. And then, can kind of, it's supposed to compile, but it didn't read that way, because you couldn't do all the things in the lowest category, which were not good, and then also be doing all the things. And so I think as we were working through the structured interviews, there was a lot of debate and dialogue and discussion around, like, how does that work and how does it fit in the rubrics. So that's some of the feedback that I gave around that for last year. I think also, as I mentioned, we had only one structured interview. There wasn't the opportunity to go back and really understand, again, what was within the time frame and what wasn't, and then go back and revisit and get clarification on some of the comments and the remarks, or seek additional feedback if some of the comments that were made were outside of that period. And so again, that's something we learned from last year, and we would suggest making those recommendations on. From the survey perspective, again, the numbers were low overall, but I'd say within the leadership team, the principal bucket, the response rate was significantly higher. The lowest one was the community piece. But we also feel strongly that the timing had a lot to do with that. Last year, we actually weren't the ones who sent out those emails. They went from communications, and I think that's something, we learned from, that when it's sent by communications, there's a perception that it's coming back to the district. And so that is something we'd also say should come from us, and make it clear that the feedback is coming only to us. And we think that could have also hindered the response rate as well. And I won't get into the details of the comments because that's protected, but I think that was another key learning that we learned from, and we can jump headfirst into and move more quickly and be better at it this year.
Did that answer your question, Trustee Feenster?
Yes, I mean, it's helping me.
Okay.
It's helping me. I just know that.
Turn your mic on, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Being Mr. Mayor today. I just, as a professional person who has evaluated teachers, let's say, and at one point we also evaluated principals. There was another style that we used. When you're working with, when you have more time with those same individuals, you come back with information that that helps you to understand if there is actual growth. Just like if we had, let's say if we went with you this year and then again next year, to me, you have that sequence of understanding better. That's just the way I'm thinking logically. Just like when I work with the teacher, if I have 2 years with them, I could help, and 3 years more. And that's just my personal opinion. I do know Lynn Sawyer, and I do know her background, strong background, and so I just have to think.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. I know that we're getting, yes, Trustee Holland?
I just wanted to see, Dawn, if you have any comments or any recommendations or thoughts you want to share with us at this point, because I know the board's, we're struggling and would appreciate if you have any comments.
Maybe if you could, price-wise.
I can go back over the prices with you and look at that. Let me do that first if I can and then talk about it. The first group that we discussed and you heard from was Cindy Davis with Strategic HR Partners. The cost for that proposal is $25,000. The next person that you heard from was Sawyer Consulting with On Strategy, and that is a $16,000 proposal. The third proposal is Public Impact. You heard from Nita Lasaponco. That is $17,000. And the last one you heard over the phone from Karen Jensen with Human Resource Connection, and that was $150 an hour, not to exceed 50 hours with a deposit and a one-time fee.
So let me just add to that, doing a little quick math on that, that was $7,599.
Thank you. In terms of recommendation, I find it difficult to make a recommendation to the board. I really do think that it's a board decision, but I understand the difficulty. I hope that we brought 4 very good proposals to you. The fact that they're all local and one has done work before, another has very good knowledge of the district, another with Cindy having extremely good credentials in her background. Karen has great credentials while not working in education, president of Human Resources Association, longtime human resources professional in the area. So I do think there's lots of things to consider. I think any of these 4 will do an outstanding job.
Just
Thank
wanted
you for
to
that.
give you the opportunity.
Didn't think you'd give us one, but nice try. Nice try. I would just say, just as we get close to wrapping this, and I know that you have a child to pick up soon, and I'm getting on the fringes myself. Just to kind of throw out for myself, looking at, I think I appreciate the conversation from the board. This has been actually really, really helpful. It's made me think about it a little differently coming in. The HR piece I hadn't valued as much coming in until I heard the conversation, not because it isn't important, but just looking at it from the other end of it. But this has really made me see how much I think it's much more valuable for us, just in terms of doing this thing right. Having experience in education, and in similar types of projects as this, I think is important. The research and analysis part, I think is really key, because we get all this data, but what the heck does it mean? I think that matters a lot for me. And the part that I hadn't considered, but Trustee Holland brought up, I think is critically important, is when it's all said and done and we do the presentation, or the presentation is done and it's presented to that's critical, absolutely. And that wasn't even on my radar, but it's I think it's really, really, really important. Coming in, I'm leaning. Let me just say leaning. I'll use your word. I'm leaning. The 2 I will be leaning more towards is either Sawyer Education and Public Impact. Basic price, I guess, is one of those as well. They're both pretty similar in price, but not because I think anyone else can't do it, because I think all of them can do it. I mean, there's no question. It's almost easier when you bring us one as opposed to when you bring us 4 really good ones. But just based upon when I put all of that together, those are just kind of my leanings, just to kind of throw out from a conversation standpoint. Hopefully getting somebody close to making a motion.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, Trustee Kelly.
I move that the Board of Trustees approves the process and selects Sawyer Education Consulting and On Strategy to facilitate the superintendent evaluation process for the 2016-17 school year in an amount not to exceed.
We say 25.
Or 16. not to exceed 16,000. But, is that okay?
I'd second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Sawyer Educational Consulting and On Strategy be selected for the process and to complete the process for the superintendent evaluation for the 16-17 school year. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Okay, the motion carries 4-2. 4-2, I'm an aye, 4-2. Okay, the motion carries 4-2. Okay, again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone that came forward, that put your presentations out there. We really appreciate it. It's a lot of hard work putting these together and then being talked about at a public meeting and all of that. We really appreciate your work. Really appreciate it. Okay, thank you, Dawn, for giving such great proposals, and thank you again for all of you that came out tonight. Thank you, Trustee Kelly. I know you have to run. Thank you for staying. Agenda item 7.01, future agenda items.
I received several letters, Madam President, from school children in Incline who are asking about various proposals they would like to make for changes in district policy and in the school. So I want to talk with staff more about it, but I want to put a marker in to perhaps invite those kids to come and present to us what their requests are for changes to school and board policy. So that may or may not be something we want to do, but I want to put a marker in to look into it further.
Put that in the parking lot, right? Okay, great. Anything else? Future agenda items? Okay, seeing none, any public comment, Ms. JJ? All right, everyone, thank you very much. Our next meeting, remember we only have one meeting in July. Next meeting is July 25th, right here at 2 p.m. Thank you, everybody.